A young man has completed his military service and decides to focus on his studies, but his passion for gaming distracts him. After his father is injured in an accident requiring expensive treatment, he becomes frustrated and abandons gaming. Suddenly, he is pulled into a game-like world filled with warriors from other worlds. Using his intelligence, he defeats them and wins prizes that help him rescue his father. The story begins inside the demonic sect building. We hear a man saying that his clan was destroyed by this sect and that he struggled to stay alive and get revenge. The man jumped into the building from over the wall and there was a man guarding the place. So he grabbed one of the guards and twisted his neck until he broke it. He knew the sect would quickly notice the guard's disappearance, so he had to finish the job before that happened. In another part of the sect, we see an old man meditating. The man said it looked noisy outside, and when he raised his head, he saw the mysterious man in front of him, carrying the body of one of the guards. The mysterious man didn't expect this old man to be in a state of meditation, while his followers were being killed one after another. He told him he was still as cruel as ever. The old man replied and told him he was exactly the same, and that he was moving with anger without knowing anything. With a smile on his face, he asked him, "Do you think the man climbing mountains would care about the insects he steps on along his way?" Then he released his energy and said he only looks at the summit, and this is the only way one can reach the highest levels of martial arts. Our hero introduced himself and said his name was Kang Shun, and that everything the old man was saying was just nonsense. We learn that the old man is the heavenly demon and that our hero will kill him no matter what. Then our hero attacked the old man using a technique called Heavenly Lightning Fist, covering his hand with lightning. The heavenly demon didn't move, despite seeing the attack, and asked our hero if that was all he could do. The heavenly demon used a technique called Heavenly Blood-Tied Art, and wrapped his hand with his energy and told Shun to watch and learn. Then he released his energy toward him, and Shun managed to block the attack and stay in place, but the attack penetrated his defense and left a scratch on his face. Shun was surprised when he realized the heavenly demon was using sword energy with his hand. The heavenly demon told him he would send him to his father today and that his end had come. Immediately, Shun used a technique called Heavenly Ruler Palm and pushed the heavenly demon's hand back. The latter was very surprised and couldn't believe that the steel formation that made his fist harder than iron would lose to Shun's bare hands. Shun delivered a powerful punch to the heavenly demon, so blood exploded from his mouth, and he flew back and hit the wall, while breathing heavily. Shun told him not to mention his father with his dirty tongue. Then he asked him if he had forgotten the heinous crimes he committed in the past, and told him that this blow represented the anger of all those he had harmed. The heavenly demon said he should have uprooted the Cloud Dragon sect back then, and then wondered what kind of insight Shun had obtained to become this powerful. He admitted he was really surprised and didn't expect him to be able to break the heavenly blood flow technique. The heavenly demon pulled out a bottle surrounded by an evil aura and told Shun he had left him no other choice. Shun was shocked when he saw the bottle and knew it was an elixir. The heavenly demon drank the elixir all at once, and Shun knew that drinking such an amount at once could expose him to demonic energy deviation. After he finished drinking, he threw the bottle on the ground. A tremendous amount of energy entered his body, and the old man screamed in severe pain, and his energy began destroying everything around him, and Shun had to raise his hand to protect his face, while trying to stand firm amid the explosion. Shun quickly turned to his side and found him close to him. The old man wrapped his hand with energy and struck Shun with it, telling him his time had come to disappear from this world. Shun felt the shock while seeing the heavenly demon's palm approaching him, and he knew he was too late. But before the old man's hand could touch him, someone used their magic to activate a barrier. The barrier immediately blocked the heavenly demon's attack. Shun recognized this ability, and when he turned around, he saw a man carrying a magic staff. The man apologized for being late and said he got held up while wandering around. Shun was amazed when he saw the great mage, but the man asked him to stop calling him by that title and asked if this was the enemy he had been talking about. This mage claims he came from another world, and Shun knew well that without this mage, he would have died helplessly long ago. While Shun was lost in thought, we learn that these past events were just a fantasy novel about the world of Murim. Our hero was asking himself why a high-level mage from a different world would suddenly appear in a martial arts story. He didn't like this development at all, and was upset because he originally loved this novel, and asked himself if the writer had gone crazy or what. He felt this transformation was ridiculous and meaningless. Our hero's name is Jin Shun. He's 23 years old, finished his military service 6 months ago, and is now preparing to return to university. While reading the novel, his phone rang and he got a message from his friend asking if he was awake and asking him to play with him. Shun asked himself, doesn't his friend have anyone else to play with? Like many people who finished their military service, Shun had a good plan for his life after finishing. He wanted to get certificates and prepare to return to university and study everything he missed while in the military. But the truth is, he missed a lot of fun in society. He left his house with some money while going on his errand, asking himself if he should look for a part-time job. He entered a cyber cafe, so the owner welcomed him and asked if he would play the Save Land game again today. Shun asked the owner to give him 10 hours this time. Since he was obsessed with Murim novels, Shun spent a long time immersed in fantasies of being a hero in the Murim world. He also spent long hours in a game called The Saved Land. At first, it was just a game he played from time to time during his military leaves, but after finishing, he started playing seriously until he became one of the top 10 players in 3 months. Sometimes, he would earn some money from tournaments held at the cyber cafe. Shun put on the headphones and told his friend he would enter the game and asked him to wait in the lobby. As soon as he said that, he started the game. As soon as the game started, 100 players jumped from a plane and were required to collect weapons scattered on the map and kill each other until only one player remained. After the players landed, Shun killed 2 of them with a firearm. His friend was amazed when he saw only 2 players were left. Shun told him he was exaggerating his reaction, reminded him he had died once before, and advised him to focus on gathering resources and staying alive. He told him they needed to find the safe zone first before moving. His friend replied that he trusted him. In the next scene, we see 2 players chasing our hero. They entered a building looking for him. One of them noticed that the loot was still in the building, so he thought Shun hadn't entered it yet. He was happy to see free loot, but unfortunately for him, Shun was hiding behind him. The player's partner heard about his teammate's death, so he immediately knew Shun was hiding and started running. But unfortunately for him too, Shun shot him in the head. As soon as he was killed, the game ended because Shun was the last survivor. His friend thanked him for carrying him in the game, and Shun asked him to get ready for the next round quickly. The young man stretched his arm and told himself he would start studying tomorrow. But before starting to play again, he got a message. It was his mother asking if he was studying well, telling him she sent him academy expenses and some extra money, and asking him to eat something good. She apologized for not being able to send him more money. Shun thanked her for the money and told her he would sleep soon. After writing that, he told his friend he wouldn't play again after today, starting tomorrow. The boy was surprised when he heard this and reminded him of his promise to participate with him in the clan war. Shun told him he had to start going to the English Institute tomorrow. Shun left the cyber cafe, feeling guilty every time he saw his mother's messages. Because he had been living like this for several months, Shun decided to go home. While lying on his bed and flipping through his phone, he saw a video talking about people with mysterious powers who appeared outside. These people call themselves players. When he tried to play the video, a message appeared saying the page didn't exist. He asked himself if the video was deleted or what. Then he decided to just sleep. The next day, he got a message from his friend begging him to help him prepare for the clan war that would be played today. Shun asked himself should he help him one last time and that's it. As soon as this thought came to his mind, he noticed something shining behind him very brightly. When he turned around, he saw something shocking. Incredibly bright light. Shun didn't understand what was happening. The light swallowed his body, so his bag fell and he disappeared into thin air. When Shun woke up, he found himself in a forest with different people. Before fully comprehending, he was asking himself if this light was punishment for his resolve to study breaking in just one day. Shun opened his eyes when he heard different voices. He asked himself what was the reason for this noise. When he raised his head, he saw different people fighting, and they were speaking many languages. Shun didn't understand what was happening and asked himself why all these cosplayers were around him. These cosplayers were using magic. Shun thought he might be dreaming. He looked around and asked himself where he was. There was a statue standing in front of everyone. The statue announced that 100 players had been detected. Shun noticed he was hearing a voice inside his head. The statue's eyes began to glow and announced it was initializing the system. As soon as it said that, Shun heard someone asking about the source of the voice. Our hero asked himself why everyone was suddenly speaking Korean. Then he heard another player saying that everyone was speaking their own language. When he looked beside him, he saw 2 players preparing to fight. The man wearing blue addressed the other as their clan's enemy and told him he had been waiting for this day. Shun saw another player who turned out to be from the elf race. He asked the man in front of him, named Chiron, if he was the one who sent them there. Chiron answered questioningly that if it wasn't Askro who sent them. Askro said that Chiron was shameless and assured him he wouldn't be fooled by his words. Chiron replied that he didn't care whether he believed him or not, and said everyone's fate was to kneel before the power of the Demon King. Askro released his magic and promised Chiron that he would kill him and end the Demon King's reign as a great mage. As soon as he said that, he fired lightning at Chiron, and when the smoke cleared, it turned out Chiron was still intact, and was himself surprised as he didn't feel anything, despite receiving the blow. Askro asked Chiron to tell him the truth and asked if he was the one who brought him to this place. While watching all this, Shun realized that what was happening was so real, it couldn't be a dream. While he was looking around, the system told him the game was about to begin. The system informed the players that the difficulty level was easy and asked them to enter within the top 90 ranks. The chosen map was the capital of the King's Kingdom and rewards would be given to the top 10 ranks and above. The system told them that attacks between players were temporarily disabled in the waiting room. Shin noticed he was looking at a game map. Then the statue decided to explain to the newcomers how to play. For those entering Cloyd for the first time, the game would last for 100 days, and with each passing day, the game map would become more and more limited. If any player left the map boundaries, they would be severely harmed. The game would continue until only one survivor remained. At the end of the game or when someone left it, they would be returned to their original world. Players who couldn't make it into the top 90 list wouldn't be allowed to participate in Cloyd's survival game again. The statue explained they would soon be transported to the location they desired with the help of Argus's gaze. It told them they could obtain items within the map and use them to advance to the top 90 list. Then it wished them good luck. Upon hearing that, Shunma wondered if he was dreaming right now about playing Loyal Ground. He looked around cautiously, and even if this was just a dream, he knew he would die among these strange people. Our hero didn't want to die even if it was in a dream. While he was lost in his thoughts, someone called out to him saying, "Hey, messy-haired guy." Shun quickly raised his head to find a huge man in front of him asking why he kept staring and where he was from. Shun didn't respond to the man, which angered him. So he pointed his sword at our hero and demanded that he not ignore him, repeating his question again. "Where are you from?" At the moment he said that, the system told them the game would start in 3 seconds. Shun smiled at the man, and the giant didn't understand why he was smiling. So he asked if he had lost his mind. At that moment, Shun wondered why he was laughing, and as soon as this thought crossed his mind, the countdown ended. Shun felt he should laugh because he was having an enjoyable dream, so he pointed his middle finger at the man without hesitation. He was confident he could beat scum like this based on his knowledge of the Loyal Ground game, also known as Log. His behavior angered the man, but before he could respond, Shun disappeared. The system told them the first day had begun. Players were dropped from the sky, and Shun noticed people were landing in crowded areas containing many items. He knew crowded areas had more resources, but he decided to land on the outskirts to be safer. While in the air, he saw 2 buildings in the middle of a forest, so he chose to land there. As soon as he said, "land," the system dropped him at that location. When he stood on his feet, he felt nauseous from motion sickness and decided to enter the house. But before he could move, he heard the sound of something moving, so he immediately started running. Due to dizziness, he couldn't see if anyone had landed with him in the area. He knew he would die if he faced an enemy without carrying a weapon, so he entered the house and closed the door behind him. Sitting on the ground panting, trying to catch his breath, he wondered if the man from before had followed him and regretted provoking him. He watched the house from the window cautiously and saw no one nearby. He wondered if the sound he heard was just wind, and luckily, he didn't hear any sound after that. He decided to start searching the house, remembering that the statue had asked them to look for items at their landing site. As soon as he began searching, he accidentally kicked something. Shun bent down and picked up the thing, and the system told him he had obtained a large bow. The bow was heavy for him, but it was better than nothing. He picked up the arrows next to the bow, and as soon as he prepared it, the method of using it automatically entered his mind. He prepared the arrow and raised the bow, saying, "This is nothing for a Korean soldier." He pressed the bottom button, and instantly, the arrow shot out at tremendous speed, destroying parts of the house. Shun was amazed by the bow's power and realized it would be very useful once he mastered it better. He searched the house but found nothing valuable. Fortunately, this map was huge. Our hero left the house and headed to another location, thinking he could collect items safely as long as he didn't encounter enemies on his way. Shun raised his hand bow and carefully snuck into another house. There he found a magic scroll, and when he picked it up, the system told him he had obtained a healing scroll and explained that simply tearing it would heal his injuries. Our hero was amazed by this item's quality, so he quickly put it in his pocket and realized he needed to find more healing resources. He wished he could find a bag. While checking the place, he spotted a glowing book among a collection of books on a shelf. When he picked up the book, the system told him he had obtained the Black Star Leader's martial arts book, a fighting art that allows a person to release dark energy through their fingers. The system asked if he wanted to learn this martial art, and Shun wondered if it would offer him a training tutorial, then agreed to the system's offer. The moment he did that, the book glowed brightly in front of him and began entering his hand. Shun wondered what had just happened and looked at his hand to notice that some pores in his palm had opened slightly. He picked up a fork from the table beside him and threw it at amazing speed. The fork destroyed the wall, and Shun felt happy to see that he had actually learned a combat technique. He extracted the fork from the wall, and after knowing there were martial arts books in this world, he became convinced there were also magic books. He became certain that Cloud Survival and Loyal Ground had the same principle. After searching the entire place and finding nothing else, he decided to move to a new location. Later that night, our hero was sneaking while carrying his hand bow. The sun had set while he was busy collecting items, and he was looking for a place to hide. During his wandering, he saw a lit house. There were two possibilities for light in the house. Either there was a rare item inside or someone was there. Shun carefully opened the door and entered the house with his bow raised. He didn't know how many people had landed near him, so if he found someone inside, they could be either a complete professional or a beginner who knew nothing. He approached the stairs and noticed he heard no sound on the first floor, wondering if the person was hiding on the second floor. He reminded himself that he had a weapon and could set an ambush using Black Star Energy Palms, thinking he might have a chance even if the opponent was a professional. He climbed the stairs carefully with his bow drawn, and when he reached the second floor, he found only a lantern. He wondered if this was a trap, then spotted a door leading to a room next to the lantern. Shun held himself together and kicked the door to enter, but he saw no one. He fell to his knees, not believing he had made all this show in front of no one. He felt relieved that no one was there. He checked the room and found a ring placed on a table. He wondered if it was a rare item, so the system told him he had obtained a strength ring, which increases the user's strength by 20 when worn. Shun didn't expect he would gain strength just by wearing a ring. He decided to test its effect, and when he put it on, the ring glowed brightly, and Shun noticed his body became lighter. He could barely feel the weight of the hand bow. Shun called for his stats window, but nothing happened. He tried asking for information, and as soon as he said that, the status window appeared in front of him. Shun noticed he was still weak in terms of level and noticed he was classified as a martial artist, wondering if that was because he learned a martial art. Nevertheless, he found it amazing and thought he was developing quickly, especially since he started from nothing. He went downstairs again and decided to search the first floor thoroughly. Shun found another ring called the subspace ring, which allows its wearer to store tools in a subspace when worn. Shun didn't expect to get another ring. To store an item, he had to hold it and think or say, subspace. The system explained that if he used his other hand to touch the ring while thinking of the item he wanted, he could retrieve it from the subspace. If that space filled up, no additional tools could be stored. Shun realized this was like the inventory feature used in this world instead of bags. When he summoned the subspace, a purple void appeared in the air. Our hero was impressed by this scene and put the healing scroll inside it. It was strange for him but extremely comfortable and practical, since he didn't have to carry this space like a bag. Shun felt this item would be very useful if found in reality and wished he could take these tools and martial arts with him to the real world. He began wondering if the game showed the number of eliminations and thought there must be a casualty record. He soon found the record and noticed only one person had been eliminated so far. Shun decided to continue advancing until only 90 players remained. He managed to search houses and collect a large number of usable tools. He was lucky enough to find many hidden weapons to use alongside the Black Star Palm. After finishing searching all the houses in the area, he wondered whether he should move forward or stay there until sunrise. He knew the strong players he saw in the waiting room were wandering in the dark, and he also knew he couldn't defeat them at his current level, but he believed he might be able to reach the top 10 list if he could hide well. He noticed the number of people outside decreased at night, so he decided to go somewhere else before sunrise. While walking in the forest, he noticed he didn't feel tired despite walking for a long time. He found the strength ring truly amazing. Despite increasing his strength, he still felt hungry and thirsty. He realized the cloud survival game might be similar to reality. He found nothing to eat around him, so he assumed food would be available in the city. He looked around and was sure the city must be nearby, but he wondered where the houses were. While searching, he heard a growling sound, so he hid behind a tree. He didn't know when that thing had approached him. He sneaked carefully to see what it was, and what he saw shocked him. It was a werewolf. He quickly ducked, but he didn't expect another werewolf was right next to him. The beast tried to crush him, but he managed to dodge the attack and started running. The two werewolves fixed their eyes on him. Shun thought the game was only about players facing each other, and if he had known werewolves were here, he would have stayed in the house. He felt dying at the hands of a beast would be embarrassing. While fleeing, he found a house. He rushed inside quickly and closed the door, then sat on the ground trying to catch his breath. While breathing hard, he heard the werewolves' growls outside. They were looking for him. He wondered what he should do and looked through a small hole to see where they were. They weren't far from him, and from the way they sniffed the ground, he realized they were tracking his scent. He took out the bow and crossbow and decided to attack first. He carefully prepared the bow and shot an arrow through the hole, hitting one of the werewolves. It fell to the ground before disappearing. Shun felt happy seeing that, and thanks to the strength ring, he could shoot the arrow with just one hand. He decided to deal with the other werewolf, but before he could reload the arrow, the beast appeared in front of his door and rushed inside. It scratched his face with its claws. Shun quickly retreated and shot his arrow, but the beast blocked it with its arm. The werewolf lunged at him, and Shun wondered if this was the end and if he would be eliminated now. But he wasn't ready to accept that. He called the subspace and took out one of the hidden weapons he had found, then used the black star palm to launch it at the werewolf. The attack created a hole in its chest. Shun said he couldn't lose to just a lowly follower. He fell to the ground, gasping with difficulty, not believing he almost died, but he felt relieved that he had used the throwing daggers he found earlier. He felt embarrassed that he almost got defeated by an ordinary monster. When he lifted his head, he spotted a small pouch on the ground that had fallen from the monster's body. When he checked its contents, he found water and pieces of dried meat jerky. He wasn't expecting he'd have to hunt for his own food. Shun decided to explore his surroundings. While he was looking around, he found a piece of armor thrown on the ground. He wondered if it was like the bulletproof vests in Loyal Ground. When he wore the armor, he noticed it was way too big for him, but the armor suddenly shrank to fit his body size. The system told him he had equipped advanced Arialchem armor and his magic fire resistance had increased significantly. Shun felt happy, seeing that the armor raised more than just 1 or 2 stats. He started searching a nearby shelf for more tools but found nothing. While he was searching, he kicked something with his foot but couldn't see it. He realized it was a hidden item. He picked it up and it looked like a piece of cloth to him. When he wore it, the system told him he had equipped the night cloak. If Shun remained still in the darkness, he would become part of it and no one would be able to see him. Magic spells wouldn't detect him and the sounds he made would be reduced to a minimum. He felt great happiness for getting such an awesome item, which meant he could avoid anyone he encountered at night. He believed this cloak was the best for survival, and with it, he could stay alive as long as he wanted. He was surprised there was a house here, but it seemed to be a loot house and his luck today was better. While wandering in the forest, Shun noticed he hadn't seen anyone at all. He wondered if that was because he had fallen in a random location. While he was lost in thought, he heard the sound of something approaching him. When he turned around, he saw a man running toward him who was badly injured. The man muttered that a mere lowly apprentice wouldn't pose a threat to him if he had time to use something. Shun quickly hid behind a tree when he saw the man. The injured man wasn't expecting to find a wizard in this place. Shun took out his bow, and the man didn't seem strong to him, so he thought he could handle him. While watching the man's movements, he told himself this wasn't real and it was just a game. But before he could do anything, someone cast a fire spell called Urka's Flame on the injured man. The man screamed as he burned and Shun stood watching, wondering if he had died. While he was staring at him, he saw a shocking scene. He saw a treasure chest. Since he found no body in the place, he became certain they were inside a game and the chest contained the items the man had possessed. He kept wondering about the source of the fire, and the moment he thought about that, a man passed by him carrying a fireball in his hand and a sword in the other hand. The man said it was audacious for someone who couldn't use magic properly to dare steal his belongings, and he described the dead man as a lowly, unlucky person. Shun quickly covered his mouth. The wizard said if the man had died by his sword instead of burning, he wouldn't have felt pain. Shun noticed the man didn't see him but passed right by him without noticing his presence, and he was very happy he got that amazing cloak. The wizard's name was Chiron, and he said mockingly that the man should feel proud for dying at Chiron's hands. Chiron decided to examine what the man left behind. Then Shun realized that the one who died was a player just like him, and he understood he might be this wizard's next victim. He realized anyone could kill him to rise in rank and all it required was a moment of hesitation from him. For survival, he knew he had to get rid of this man. While Chiron was checking the loot, Shun shot an arrow at him. Chiron immediately felt the attack and activated a magic shield to block it, then quickly used his magic and said he had caused too much noise, and all of this was that dead man's fault. Before he could launch his attack, Shun shot another arrow at him. The arrow caused Chiron's armor to crack, so he realized his magic barrier would collapse if it took another hit. He wondered where Shun was shooting his arrows from, then launched an attack in the direction the arrow came from, destroying an entire tree. Chiron shouted, demanding the coward to stop hiding like cowards and asked him to show himself. But the moment he finished speaking, Shun threw one of his daggers at him from behind. Chiron felt the attack and quickly turned his body, but unfortunately it was too late. The dagger had completely destroyed his barrier. Chiron was annoyed because he couldn't determine where Shun was hiding. Our hero raised his head and moved the trees around him. As soon as Chiron heard the sound of leaves, he started gathering his magical energy again. But before he could launch the attack, he found a dagger piercing his forehead, and after a moment, his body began to fade. Shun was amazed that he won the battle, and when Chiron's body disappeared, a chest full of his belongings dropped. Our hero realized someone might have seen Chiron's fires and might approach the place, so he decided to take what he could and leave quickly. He threw Chiron's belongings into his storage and found a healing scroll inside his chest. He also found a necklace known as the escrow necklace. According to the system, the necklace made of pure gold indicated that its bearer was a wizard belonging to the Escrow Magic Society. Sean thought it was just a useless piece with no properties and decided to keep it. When he looked at the other man's chest, he noticed something glowing inside it. When he opened the chest, he found something known as the Circle Stone Ring. The system explained that this stone allowed the user to engrave a magic circle around his heart, giving him the ability to use mana. Once used, the user would be able to learn that circle's magic. Sean couldn't believe he was about to become a wizard this easily. He remembered Chiron saying something about how he would have been able to defeat him if he had time to use something, and he realized what he meant was this stone. Sean promised to benefit from this thing on his behalf, then poured the rest of the items into his sub-storage space and decided to examine them later in a safer place. He left the area determined to find a suitable place to use the circle stone. He found a good building and entered it. The system asked if he wanted to use the circle stone, and Sean immediately agreed. The system told him he would remain unable to move for 3 hours and wouldn't be able to perform any action or use any item during this time. It also informed him he would feel mild pain while the circle was forming. The stone began glowing intensely and Sean gritted his teeth trying to bear the pain. He suppressed the screaming that was rising from within him and spent 3 hours in unbearable pain. When the time was up, he collapsed on the ground exhausted. He couldn't believe this was what the system described as mild pain. He really thought he was going to die. Sean remembered that learning martial arts was easy and never expected learning magic to be this harsh. Sean opened the stats window to check his status and discovered he now had 2 classes: Martial Arts, Master and Wizard, and he even had a mana stat. Sean thought the number of survivors had increased after the 2 men's deaths, but when he opened the survivors section, he was shocked by what he saw. Only 45 survivors remained while 54 people had already died. Sean couldn't comprehend how this happened. Only a few hours had passed. He noticed a large number of people had been killed by someone called Nam Sagwon. A few hours earlier, we see a martial arts fighter chasing a duelist he had been watching from atop a tree while he fled. The duelist begged him to stop chasing him, so the martial arts fighter smiled when he heard him. The duelist was the same one who had raised his sword against Sean earlier. The poor guy stumbled while running and fell to the ground. He turned around and begged to let him stay within the top 90, confirming he couldn't die like this. He begged the fighter to spare him, but the man wrapped his hand with his energy and struck the duelist's neck with it, cutting it and severing his head. Then he turned and said all participants would know his name after this day. This fighter's name was Nam Sagwon. Then he entered the forest without even bothering to check the chest there. On the 3rd day of Cloud's survival challenge, we see Sean checking his status window, hoping not to encounter Sagwon. While he was thinking, he realized he could enter the top 10 list if Sagwon continued eliminating others. He remembered the announcement mentioning that rewards would be given to those who entered the top 10 list. He wondered what this reward would be and thought it might be money or magical tools. It occurred to him that the system might allow them to take the skills and items they obtained in this world with them to the real world. Then he felt he might be getting ahead of himself too much. He reminded himself there was a killer on the loose, so he decided to finish what he was doing and start moving. When he raised his hand, he felt energy emanating from inside his body. He realized this was mana. Sean put his hand into his storage space and remembered he found a magic book while collecting loot the previous day. He took out a book known as the Spherical Wind Book, which allowed the user to create wind balls. The number of balls the user could make increased according to his strength. The system asked if he wanted to learn this skill, and Sean immediately agreed. The book disappeared in the air the moment he agreed, and he was able to understand the magic spell immediately. He decided to test it, so he used a type of escrow magic known as Wind Ball. As soon as he activated the spell, 4 small wind balls appeared above his fingers. He couldn't believe this was all the spell did, so he threw the balls away. But when they approached the wall, they suddenly expanded and exploded, completely destroying the wall. Sean felt amazed. He wasn't expecting them to be this powerful. He realized he had obtained a truly useful skill. While he was looking at the debris, he suddenly felt tired as his mana had completely run out. As time passed, the forbidden area began appearing on the map, and the available area was gradually shrinking. Sean decided to gather resources on the edges of the borders. Since half the players had disappeared, the chances of encountering another player became less. He knew he needed to hurry before the area shrank more. While he was wandering, an old man watched him from afar. He appeared to be a martial artist too and said with interest that this boy was interesting. After half a day, Sean entered an area full of houses. When he arrived, he saw something strange, a large amount of chests scattered on the ground. When he sensed the stranger's presence, he immediately turned around and activated the wind ball spell and launched it at one of the buildings. The attack destroyed the building, but no one came out. Sean realized it was just an air current, although he was sure he felt someone's presence. When he looked inside the building, he noticed blood on the ground. He realized there was an injured person hiding there. and obviously he was strong enough to stay alive until now. Sean thought about killing this injured person, believing he carried good tools, but he decided to prioritize his survival, so he withdrew and entered the forest. After his departure, the injured man came out of his hiding place, happy that he hid quickly. He knew if he had delayed a moment, he would have been killed. The man came out of the house and knew he could have easily eliminated our hero if he hadn't been injured. He decided to loot the chest quickly, then leave. But the moment he bent down to search the chests, Sean shot an arrow that hit his head and pierced his skull. The man didn't expect this attack, so he disappeared and his chest fell to the ground. When Sean saw that, he came out of his hiding place happily because the man appeared quickly, and he decided to take the resources quickly and head toward the edges of the forbidden area. But before he could reach the chest, a martial artist who had been watching him spoke to him, saying he seemed quite skilled. Sean quickly turned around, not believing he allowed himself to get careless for the old man to appear behind him. He asked him to calm down, explaining he just had some question. Sean asked him who he was, so the man replied asking if he would know him if he told him his name, reminding him they all came from different lives. Sean realized that his words were correct, and began to notice that this man was completely different from everyone he had met so far. The martial artist asked him if he had participated in this game before, so Sean asked what he meant by that. The man explained that he had been watching him for a while and told him that he had adapted remarkably quickly, reminding him that this world is another reality. Upon hearing this, Sean began to wonder how long he had been under surveillance, since he had never noticed the man's presence at all. He told him that this was his first time in the game, but he had played a similar game in the world he came from. The martial artist found this interesting, as he had suspected that Sean came from a different world because of his appearance. But he became certain after hearing what he said. The old man had known from Sean's appearance that he was from another world, but what he said now made him more certain. The martial artist noticed that darkness had fallen, so our hero said that the third day had ended. While they were looking at the sky, the martial artist asked him if the moon in this world was the same size as the moon there. Then Sean realized that he had never noticed the size of the moon before, and told him that the moon here was bigger. The man said that the moon in his world was also smaller and smiled as he asked Sean to explain the game he mentioned. Sean said the place was dangerous and they could easily be ambushed, so the old man suggested they go somewhere else because the conversation would be long. Sean replied that he didn't know whether he would kill him or not, so why should he go with him? Then, the martial artist grabbed his clothes and advised him not to make any sound if he didn't want to become a target, then jumped with him to the top of a tree and began jumping between trees at tremendous speed, which forced Sean to grit his teeth to resist the wind. At that time, Sean didn't realize the consequences this meeting would bring. After they reached their destination, our hero began explaining to the old man what he knew. The old man was amazed when he learned that people in his world played with blood in virtual space and said that his world seemed magical. But Sean, while clinging to the tree trunk, told him that his world was just a very advanced civilization. The martial artist told him that he now understood the reason for his quick adaptation to the game. Sean was surprised by this comment and wondered how long this man had been watching him. Then the man revealed that he had been with him from the moment of their arrival and even knew what he was thinking. It seems the sound our hero heard at the moment of his descent wasn't imagination after all. The martial artist explained that he had intended to enjoy the fresh air in the high mountains for 100 days, but what Sean was doing aroused his curiosity. He told him that he decided to talk to him because he wanted to know the reason they were brought here, confirming that he didn't intend to harm him and that he didn't need to be so cautious of him. Sean told him that he also didn't know the reason for their presence here, so the man reminded him that he said he had something similar in his world. Our hero explained that the game in his world was for entertainment and people didn't actually die in it, and said he didn't understand the motives of the supernatural beings that kidnap people from other worlds. He added that he believed this game would be a great opportunity for someone. The martial artist asked him what he meant, so he reminded him that death here doesn't mean death in real life, and that once a person dies, they will be granted a rank and a prize corresponding to that rank. Sean told the man that the rewards must be the tools they obtain in this world, so the man asked if he meant the things he wore. Sean answered that it also included the martial arts and skills they learn in this world. The man said that magic was truly interesting and couldn't believe that this entire event was a great opportunity. Sean knew that this fighter wouldn't need those abilities or tools, but he explained to him that these abilities could change the lives of people who go through many difficulties in their lives. The old man asked Sean why he thought his life was free of difficulties. Our hero answered that he seemed like a martial arts teacher who had many followers in his world, and that he couldn't compare himself to someone like him, as he had no real value in the world he came from. He explained that this might be a great opportunity for people struggling in life. The old man laughed when he heard that and told Sean that he said interesting things. Sean asked him not to speak loudly, The old man reminded him that he was moving his hand in the air earlier and asked what he was doing. Sean replied, surprised, asking if he didn't know how to open the mini-map, then told the old man about some useful tips and tricks in this world. In return, he heard stories about the world of warriors. Morning came quickly upon them, so the fighter came down from the tree with Sean and told him that he had taken much of his time. But our hero asked him not to worry. The old man told Sean that he had learned a lot from him and asked if there was something he could do to return the favor. Sean asked the man to teach him some of his martial arts, explaining that he wanted to stay alive until the end and needed his help to achieve that. The old man stared at Sean and said that it wasn't impossible, which shocked our hero. The old man explained that he must prepare for the worst. Sean asked what he meant, and he answered that what was meant was death, asking if he still wanted to proceed. The old man explained that if he wanted to succeed through unconventional methods, he would pay a heavy price, asking if he was ready for that. Sean was surprised but reminded the old man that people don't die in this place, which amazed the old man, who realized that Sean was right and that he could use a certain method for him. Sean asked if there was a way to become stronger, and the old man answered that he had a method worth trying. Sean asked what he should do. The old man placed his hand on his head to feel the amount of his internal energy and was amazed by how little it was, saying that his internal energy was even less than that of his house dog, and he didn't know how that was possible. Sean reminded him that in his world, there were no martial arts or internal energy, so the old man asked him to sit in the lotus position. After Sean sat down, the old man placed his hand on his head and told him that he would feel pain like death and wouldn't be able to move. Sean asked what he should do, and the old man told him to endure the pain, warning him that he would die if he failed. All of our hero's senses became tense, so the air hitting his skin became like sharp blades, the breath entering his lungs like volcanic lava, and even the crawling of ants on the grass became audible to him. As for the pain, it was enormous. A bright light shone from his body while he was screaming, and Sean thought he would die as he felt every part of his body, and the pain was unbearable. After a while, the old man said it was over, so Sean quickly opened his eyes and began to vomit. The old man told him that his body wasn't bad because he was able to endure the experience and that he had natural inclinations. Then he explained that he had corrected the flow of his energy and that his body would feel different. Sean asked what he should do now. The old man reminded him that he said he wanted to become stronger as quickly as possible, and explained that he had pushed his soul a little and created a gate in that void, explaining that people are born to absorb the world's energy only through breathing. But Sean now had an additional gate that enabled him to absorb special energy alongside breathing. Sean asked about the nature of this change. The old man explained that humans consist of body, mind, and soul, and these three are held together by life energy, or what is known as chi. The old man asked Sean if he knew what happens to life energy when a human dies. The young man answered that it disappears, but the old man told him he was wrong, and explained that life energy doesn't disappear, but dissipates, and this dissipation is absorbed by nature, allowing the continuation of the life cycle. However, there are those who consider this natural cycle a waste, so they kill others to absorb their life energy. Those whose bodies are filled with life energy are in an unstable state, and eventually, their yin and yang harmony breaks down, causing them to lose their martial arts or their lives. As for the mind technique that the old man taught Sean, it allows him to absorb scattered life energy to increase his internal energy. Sean was amazed and told the old man that he would die if he did that, but the old man revealed that he was slightly different. He explained that most fighters had cut their internal veins to create a gate, while he used his soul to create the gate. He told him that he had no internal energy and that his body was like a blank paper, and that he had modified his veins to enable him to absorb life energy in harmony. Then he asked if he understood why he gave him the forbidden mind technique. Sean asked if it was because of the game settings, and the old man praised him for his quick understanding. He told him that he felt life energy yesterday in places where people died, where their life energy remained behind them. The biggest problem with this technique is that it doesn't allow great success except through killing, but this isn't an obstacle here. The old man explained to Sean that if he killed others for survival, his strength would increase greatly at the end of the 100 days. Then he told him that the time for parting had come and wished to see him again. Sean asked him to wait and asked about his name after he had helped him so much. The old man revealed that his name was Jang Duqian and that people called him the one standing in the deep valley. He told him that the mind technique he taught him was called the white combat body art. Sean nodded and promised not to forget his favor. Duqian advised him to get used to deep breathing and explained that he would gradually become stronger through the accumulation of internal energy in the Dantian. He opened the map and told him that it was very convenient, and informed him that he would meet him again when the opportunity arose. Then he jumped on a tree and disappeared. Sean commented that he disappeared like professionals and wondered if he would be able to move around easily like that when he mastered using Qigong. Then he decided to head toward the edges of the designated area. He had been kidnapped by the old man to the center of the illuminated area in an instant, but returning on foot to the edge took half a day. At night, Sean was hiding in the bushes watching an illuminated house. He knew there were only two possibilities. Either the house was empty or there was a beginner in it who didn't know how to turn off the lights. He decided to enter, and when he went in, he found no one. Then he went up to the upper floor and searched there too and found no one. So he was happy that it was empty and began looking for useful things. But he only found trivial things like a small healing scroll and a piece of dried meat. He lay down on the ground and yawned, realizing that he hadn't slept all night because he had spent it talking with the old man. So he decided to get some sleep. The next day, Sean was lying on the ground when he quickly opened his eyes upon hearing movement. He heard a voice saying that the house seemed empty, and the person had already climbed up. Sean grabbed the crossbow, amazed by his deep sleep, while the sun had already risen. The intruder opened the room door and intended to rest in it, but he was surprised to find Sean aiming the bow at him. Our hero immediately shot his arrow, but the man used his sword to break it. Then Sean realized he was a martial arts fighter, so he opened his subspace and launched several daggers at him using the Black Star Palm technique. The man managed to deflect the attack and called him despicable for using hidden weapons. Before he could attack him, Sean pounced and pushed him to the ground, kicking his sword away. He pulled out an arrow and mounted the man, saying he had been having a beautiful dream before he woke him up. The man began begging him to let him go and offered to give him everything he owned, saying he had suffered a lot to survive and couldn't die here. But unfortunately for him, Sean drove the arrow into his head. The system told him he had killed Shui with a direct hit to the head. Sean told the man that he couldn't die here either. Sean noticed something strange coming out of the man's chest after he killed him. Green energy emanated from him. Our hero immediately realized this was what Duchian had been talking about. This was life energy, and it covered his body. A bright light appeared before him and he began absorbing the life energy at a crazy speed. He felt his body overflowing with power and realized this was what's known as internal energy. Even though he had only absorbed one person's life energy, his body had indeed become lighter and stronger. Sean quickly called up his status window and saw he now had a new section for internal energy, where he now possessed 20 points of it. He realized Duchian had given him something amazing, but he knew he couldn't rely only on killing others to get life energy. He had to find other ways to obtain it. Sean opened the player count menu, wanting to know how many had been eliminated, and was shocked to find only 24 people remained. This was surprising since only 5 days had passed. While checking his status window, he noticed another player had just died, killed by Nam using martial arts. The scene shifts to show that person calling out Nam's name before his body disappeared, while Nam left the place without caring about his box, since there was nothing in it that interested him. In fact, he was frustrated because he had expected the man to be strong since he approached him, and felt he had dirtied his clothes for nothing. Nam opened his status window, sure he had killed many, and wondered when the event would end. When he checked the player count, he found only 22 remained and saw Sean's name among the players who had killed others. He was sure he had seen our hero's name before. At home, Sean was hoping to clash with a dangerous player like Nam. He knew his level was much lower than his and that he was still struggling even with ordinary players. He quickly emptied the killed man's box, wanting to finish gathering resources before the danger zone narrowed. The only good thing he found was a repeated troll potion, while the rest were worthless. Our hero realized the man wouldn't have died so easily if he had owned something valuable. After that day, Sean decided to hide and stay alive until the number of players decreased. After a week in the forest, we see two werewolves moving together. Sean fired a strong wind bullet at them and killed them both, realizing he was lucky to have started gathering resources early in the game. He couldn't collect many spoils because he was hiding, and the equipment he got was poor. Luckily for him, he was staying in the forest near the borders of the danger zone, which saved him from facing enemies. He felt satisfied because he got some food that day. This was the 12th day of Cloud's survival, and he was sick of eating bacon. He approached the restricted area, remembering that only 20 players remained. He extended his hand through the barrier and it trembled, so he pulled it back immediately. When he saw this, he realized he wouldn't be able to move if he decided to cross the barrier. For a whole week, the kill record showed only Nam's name killing everyone, while the others started hiding and playing safely like Sean. While he was thinking, he spotted thick smoke rising from another direction and knew there was a battle taking place there. That place had turned into a battlefield where we see someone panting and asking those who attacked him about their identity. The knight answered that they had gathered for one purpose, to eliminate him, and confirmed he had no chance of winning, asking him to die quietly. The group included a knight, a martial artist, a sorceress, and another sorcerer, along with others surrounding Nam from behind. Nam thanked them for saving him, the trouble of chasing them one by one, and with a smile asked if they were ready to meet the same fate as those before them, promising they would understand the consequences of their actions soon. He jumped as he said this, so one of them screamed, demanding they catch him for fear he would escape. But unfortunately for them, Nam didn't intend to flee. He grabbed one of the swordsman's heads and crushed it with his hand, saying, "That's the first one." The others were shocked by what they saw, but Nam didn't give them a chance to regain their balance as he rushed toward them and tore them apart, cutting off their heads with one blow. It wasn't a battle but a one-sided massacre. Nam tore these people limb from limb, and the kill record showed exactly what he did. It seemed he would definitely win this game, and the only thing that might change the result would be something unexpected happening. While our hero was walking in the forest, he received several notifications that Nam had killed a number of players with his fist techniques. Sean couldn't believe that Madman got 9 kills in one go and wondered if Nam was a hacker. While covered in blood, Nam said these players were worth nothing. He felt disgusted by the smell of blood in the air and thought the players should have died without resistance. Not understanding why they were screaming, he left behind several boxes and a huge magic staff and decided to find a place to wash. At night, someone arrived at the site and picked up the staff. Sure, it was Elizabeth's staff. This person turned out to be the chief sorcerer Isco, whom we saw at the beginning. Isco swore by his name that he would avenge Elizabeth. Sean realized only 11 people remained in the game, which meant he could enter the top 10 list if he held out long enough. After seeing how Nam dealt with those players, he understood he needed to get powerful equipment if he wanted to face a raid leader like Nam. While wandering, he found a palace and knew this palace would be outside the safe zone by tomorrow and that it was the last suitable place to train his energy. Sean decided to check it out, and when he entered the palace, he was surprised by its large size and luxury. He found armor known as Royal Guard armor, but he couldn't wear it because he didn't have enough strength. The system told him he needed 110 strength to wear it while his current strength was only 30. Nevertheless, the system asked if he still wanted to pick it up. Sean knew something like this would weigh him down, so he continued searching. He found 2 glowing items on a shelf. The first was an elixir that increases internal energy and takes 3 hours to absorb. Sean felt happy to find the elixir since it would give him internal energy without needing to absorb life energy, thinking, the palace must contain other good things. The second item was a book that was a secret element known as Secrets of the Unbreakable Fist. The system asked if he wanted to learn it, and Sean couldn't believe he had obtained a martial arts manual. Since the elixir was like a circle stone skill, he decided to look for a place to sit for 3 hours to absorb the energy before starting. Something hit his foot, and when he looked down, he saw a vault, thinking it contained something important. But before he could take another step, a huge explosion occurred in the palace, destroying parts of it. Sean was surprised and quickly jumped out the window. He didn't understand what was happening, but he got up and started running. At that moment, another explosion occurred, so he hid among the bushes. He was sure no one had followed him here, but he couldn't comprehend what was going on. When he raised his head, he saw someone he knew from the waiting room. It was Isco. The sorcerer was the one using fire magic and told his opponent he didn't expect him to survive the explosion, telling him he hadn't eliminated all those people by luck. While in the air, Isco told Nam he would remember his name, but Nam asked him to stop the nonsense, confirming he wasn't special enough to say such words. He told him not to waste time with empty talk and asked him to attack. Isco smiled and showed interest in seeing how long he would continue bragging. Nam replied that he was interested in seeing that too. Sean was surprised that the person who committed the massacre was just a child. Isco raised his staff and introduced himself as the master of spells, then cast a spell known as Lightning Strike. Isco summoned lightning from the sky and ordered it to strike. As soon as he said that, a huge amount of lightning launched toward Nam, but he managed to dodge it. Isco fired more lightning bolts at him, asking how long he intended to keep dodging and demanding he face him as he faced Elizabeth. While dodging the attacks, Nam admitted that Isco was skilled and that he hadn't seen anyone like him, even in the Murim, and some of his skills sent shivers through his body. But Isco was annoyed by his dodging and called him a despicable rat, then left his staff and raised his hand to summon a huge amount of lightning. He said he would finish him with this strike and cast his lightning storm spell on Sean. Lightning crashed down from multiple directions toward Nam, who was shocked by the size of the attack and began maneuvering carefully to avoid it. He barely managed to dodge the strike, then jumped and rushed toward Isco. The sorcerer was surprised to see Nam approaching him, so the boy gathered his energy in his palm. When he got close to Isco, the sorcerer told him his attack wouldn't be enough to penetrate his barrier, then waved his staff in Nam's face and ordered him to die. Nam felt amazed by the staff's power and disappeared before Isco's eyes, which shocked the sorcerer when he realized Nam had used an illusion trick to escape. While Isco was looking around searching, the rain began to fall and Sean was struck with amazement at seeing this, wondering if the rain was caused by Isco's magic. The matter seemed crazy to him as he couldn't believe that the sorcerer was about to kill Nam and on top of that could change the weather. Since he couldn't sense his presence, Esko concluded that Nam had fled to a far distance, so he screamed at the top of his voice, threatening that he would catch him and kill him. Nam was panting as he ran through the forest, admitting to himself that he had been defeated by Esko, but he swore not to let him get out safely next time. He would be the one to kill him. He decided to retreat now to recover his energy. Esko kept searching for him, but eventually calmed down and disappeared. Thanks to his cloak, the sorcerer didn't see him and he was lucky enough to live another day. As for Sean, he knew that Nam and Esko wouldn't return here for a while, so he began searching through the ruins for something. He soon found it. It was the cellar he had seen earlier. He wondered if there was something important inside, or perhaps a dungeon containing treasures. When he opened the door, he found stairs leading to a great depth underground. He decided to go down since it seemed no one had entered the place before, and he took out a lantern from his sub-storage, relieved that the lantern he had gotten from the house where he had been farming yesterday was useful now. When he reached inside, he discovered a large amount of food. He couldn't believe it was just a food storage cellar. He felt disappointed. How could there be a cellar full of food in a place where there wasn't enough space for farming? He wondered what he should do, realizing that since his arrival, he had only eaten flavorless bacon. After an hour, Sean was lying on the ground, having filled his belly to satisfaction, completely content. But he felt the dish would have been perfect if he had white rice available. He then decided to start consuming the elixir and remembered that he had a book for learning martial arts, so he took out the guide for the breaking fist technique. The system revealed to him that a man named Minbaya had developed this technique in his later life, and after long experience in combat, he poured his heart and soul into creating an unbeatable martial art. However, his record was 1,429 wins and 1,429 losses. So he lived his life as a source of mockery, and his technique was lost due to the absence of students to inherit it. Sean was annoyed that he had picked up something like this, and decided to postpone thinking about it and focus on the elixir. He took it out of his storage and hesitated a little because of the pain he had felt when activating the circle stone before, but he drank it in the end while thinking about the power he would gain. The moment he did that, he felt his dantian filling with internal energy, and the amount of energy he absorbed now was incomparable to what he had gotten before. He began sweating profusely, and his movement became slow, realizing he wouldn't be able to move for 3 hours. After the 3 hours passed, Sean was panting heavily and fell to the ground, not believing that just staying still for all this time could be exhausting. He hadn't expected to spend a full week in the forest and survive an encounter with a legendary sorcerer, so he felt great pride in himself. Because of everything that had happened, he felt extremely tired and slept on the ground. The next day, his lantern went out and the 13th day of surviving on Cloyd Island began. Sean came out of the cellar after waking up and realized that the castle was now close to the forbidden zone as he had expected. He called up the player counter to see the game status, and found that the number of survivors had become only 10, meaning one of them had died. Sean was shocked when he found out who it was. It was Dachin. He couldn't believe he had done that and wondered if the old man had tried a stupid training method just because there was no danger threatening him. Sean found no other reason that would make him kill himself except this possibility. He felt relieved to enter the top 10 list, but he didn't like that he had gotten there this way, so it left a bitter taste in his mouth. While he was thinking, he noticed that part of his cloak was outside the barrier, so he realized that the map was indeed in a state of shrinking, and he didn't want to die stuck in the forbidden zone, so he quickly moved away from this area. While running through the forest, he told himself that he would continue the strategy that had kept him alive all this time. For someone like him who had no skills, this was the best way to rise to the top ranks. But while running, he suddenly turned when he felt something as someone launched an attack on him. Sean managed to dodge the strike, but it threw him into the air. He was shocked by the power of the attack, and wondered about its source, then realized there was a sorcerer who could summon a fireball with this power. He turned quickly to be surprised by seeing Esko. The sorcerer had sensed someone's presence through his detection spell and thought it was Nam, not expecting it to be a new person. Sean realized that while using his newly acquired internal energy to move quickly, he ended up running directly toward Esko and couldn't believe he had made such a stupid mistake. Esko asked him if he knew the location of someone called Nam, and told him he would die if he didn't give him the answer he wanted. While he was talking, a person appeared hiding behind a tree. The person smiled when he heard what Esko said, and it became clear that he said Esko that the only way for Sean's survival was to tell him his location, and if he didn't know, he would have to die. Sean pointed his bow at Esko and told him he didn't know what he was talking about since they had just met, and confirmed it was impossible for him to know Nam's location. Esko replied that Sean seemed to be from the same area as Nam and told him he would die here. As soon as he said that, Nam rushed down at him from above. Nam attacked Esko when he got close to him, but luckily for the sorcerer, his armor deflected the attack. Esko turned quickly and wasn't expecting someone to be hiding behind him. With a smile, Nam told him he had fully recovered and asked if his mana supply had run out. Sean was surprised to see Nam and didn't know where he came from. Nam clenched his fist and said he would finish this with his attack. His attack destroyed Esko's armor, but his hand couldn't reach the sorcerer. Esko asked him if he thought a simple attack like this could defeat him, but at that moment, the sorcerer felt severe pain. With a smile, Nam asked him if he had ever heard of Ganja Sogang energy. It's a type of martial art under the Ganja energy umbrella, and it's so rare that only a few have mastered it. Nam didn't think he would have to use it in this world. Nam covered his arm with his energy and used it to pierce Esko's throat, revealing to the sorcerer that this was the first time he had shown it in this world and asked him to consider it an honor. As soon as he said this, he pulled his hand out of his throat, and Esko began coughing blood. Nam felt relieved that he wouldn't be able to cast his annoying spells anymore, and told him that entering the top 5 would have been easy for him, but meeting him would be the biggest regret of his life. Sean quickly put on his cloak and felt relieved that Nam had arrived and decided to flee, while Nam and Esko fought. But before he could, he heard Nam ask the sorcerer to die. And as soon as he said that, he stabbed him in the stomach, then stabbed him again in the shoulder. Blood gushed heavily from the sorcerer's mouth, while Sean watched the invincible sorcerer being completely crushed by Nam. What crossed his mind wasn't fear of Nam or pity for Esko, but a thought that preceded everything else. How strong would he be if he absorbed both their life energy? After stabbing the sorcerer several times, Nam left him and asked where his arrogance had gone and if he had any last words before dying. But he quickly realized that Esko couldn't speak. Suddenly, Esko spoke to him in his head, calling him the bastard who killed his dearest student whose name was Elizabeth. Nam was surprised to hear the sorcerer speaking inside his mind. So Esko told him he regretted not preventing Elizabeth from leaving the academy, and the university's refusal to recognize her just because she was a woman. Nam replied that he couldn't help but notice if he had killed a woman and said Elizabeth must not have looked different from a man. Esko smiled and told Nam he could finally shut his dirty mouth. Nam asked him what he meant, and as soon as he said that, Sean saw something shocking, something coming from the sky. It was a huge meteor. Sean couldn't believe what his eyes were seeing, and Nam was also amazed to see the meteor, and didn't understand how Esko managed to cast his spell in that condition since he couldn't even recite spells. Esko revealed to him that this was the absolute spell that only a great sorcerer could cast, and the cost of casting it was his mana and life energy. This spell was known as Devastation. Nam began running, describing Esko as crazy. Sean also ran, realizing he should have escaped earlier. As the meteor approached, Esko said he was happy to see his student and expressed his hope to meet her again. His body began gradually disintegrating as the meteor crushed him, leaving only his chest. When the meteor touched the ground, it caused an incredibly huge explosion. One of the thousands saw the meteor destroying everything around it and said, "There was one person capable of casting a spell of this size and it must be him." The scene shifts to show Sean lying on the ground covered in blood. He said to himself, he should have fled when he had the chance and blamed Esko's damn life energy. Sean opened his subspace, saying he couldn't die this way. And luckily, he had obtained many healing scrolls for such situations. He used his teeth to tear one of the scrolls and slowly began recovering his energy. Sean realized he wouldn't have survived if he hadn't drunk the elixir. While panting with difficulty, he tore another healing scroll, and although he treated his wound, the pain was still gnawing at his body. After consuming a large number of healing scrolls, he was finally able to stand. He couldn't believe he had used all the scrolls he had with him. He quickly opened the player list and saw that Nam had killed Esko. Sean was really surprised that the sorcerer had actually died and wanted to get his life energy, but he wondered why the kill notification for Nam's death hadn't appeared and realized that the cunning beast might still be alive. While he was thinking, he heard a cry for help. He moved toward the source of the sound, and when he moved some leaves aside, he found someone asking for help. He was shocked when he saw it was Nam holding a healing scroll in his mouth. He was severely injured, missing both arms, and didn't want to die this way. Sean wasn't surprised by his condition, since he knew it would be difficult for Nam to avoid a meteor that targeted him directly. Sean noticed that Nam was unable to use his bandages for healing because of his injuries, and while he was thinking, he saw Nam begging him to help tear the bandages. Sean asked if he was really Nam, which shocked the boy. Sean explained that he had always wondered what kind of equipment Nam possessed to keep his name constantly appearing on the kill log. He told him he was confident about winning the game and hadn't expected to see Nam in this state. Nam promised he would make him the winner if he helped him just this once, assuring him it would be easy and asking if he really thought he could win alone by killing him. But Sean pulled out a sword from his subspace, believing he would become the strongest if he killed him and obtained his life energy and possessions. He raised his sword with a smile. So Nam asked him to wait, saying he didn't know how many strong players were left in the game. He revealed that he didn't have many items and that his martial arts weren't learned here. Sean thought it was better for Nam to know his killer's name, so our hero introduced himself. Nam promised he wouldn't forget his name even if he died this way. And the moment he said that, Sean stabbed him in the head. Since Nam looked like a small kid, Sean felt some guilt for killing him. But as soon as he thought about it, he felt something. Point Nam. It was Nam's life energy. Sean was shocked by its enormous magnitude. He said it was like a human elixir as he felt a massive surge of internal energy filling his body. While he was absorbing this energy, the other players received notifications that only 8 players remained and that Sean had killed Nam. One of the players, Ram the Archer, said the foxes would wreak havoc now that the tiger was dead. Sean was still in shock from feeling Nam's energy and realized he could face anyone with his current power. He decided to check Nam's box, hoping that someone as strong as him had collected good loot. Although he didn't need it, he knew his mood would sour if he found nothing inside. When he opened the box, a green light shone, and he was amazed by what he saw inside. He found some rings, including Kaiser's ring, which greatly increased his agility. The Dream Ring, which significantly boosted his strength. Galen's ring, which greatly raised his endurance. Tahara's ring, which increased his magic resistance. And another Tahara ring. Sean couldn't believe Nam was only collecting rare items. He felt annoyed, remembering that Nam acted as if he wasn't using any items. He quickly opened his status window to see that his strength was now 70, endurance 70, agility 75, and magic resistance 90. He couldn't believe his eyes and was confident he could win with these stats. In addition to the rings, there was a collection of martial arts manuals, but they were all things he couldn't learn immediately since he had to meet certain conditions first. While examining his status window, he felt something playing. He sensed someone's presence. As soon as he turned around, someone fired Esco-style flames using a spell called Explosion to unleash a huge amount of fire on him. A mage watched Sean burn and told him he shouldn't have been careless just because he was collecting loot. He added that since Sean fell into such a basic trap, Nam must have been defeated by luck. Then Sean asked about his identity, so the man was surprised to see Sean talking as if nothing happened and couldn't believe his fire spell didn't affect him. Sean told him he only saw a flash since his magic resistance was now 90, and this level of magic was nothing more than a trivial trick. Sean began walking slowly toward the man who asked him to stop and questioned what he intended to do. He threatened that he would hit him with a stronger spell if he took another step, then raised his staff and fired Esco-style flames again, gathering fire at the tip of his staff. Sean told him his attack wouldn't hurt him much. The man cast his explosion spell, but Sean stood still and took the attack directly without being affected. Sean clenched his fist and used the first chapter of the Unbreakable Fist, which was the Piercing Fist, to attack the mage. He delivered a powerful blow to his chest that made him spit blood and fly backward until his back hit a tree. Sean was amazed by the power of his strike and remembered that the Unbreakable Fist was a martial art used by someone who always lost, and he hadn't expected it to be this effective. But he realized that the power of martial arts depends on the amount of internal energy a person has. The mage coughed and died, leaving only 7 players in this world. It was announced that Sean killed Gahara using fist arts. Sean absorbed the man's life energy and realized that ordinary magic spells wouldn't work on him now that his magic resistance had increased. He put on his cloak and understood that everyone who had been hiding would come out now after Nam's death. Knowing he had a long night ahead, he started running and smiled when he noticed he could now imitate Duchin's movements, thanking the old man for what he did for him and saying he would definitely win the game. After an hour, Sean was hanging from a tree, trying to get a good view of his surroundings. While observing the area, he heard someone asking him to stop hiding and requesting him to show himself to play with him. He couldn't believe someone could be this loud at night. The man asked him to fight man to man if he wasn't afraid, called him a coward, and asked if his hiding was. This man's name was Stark, and he said everyone was hiding because they were afraid of him. The moment he said that, Stark felt something coming toward him, so he raised his sword to block what was heading for him, then commented that this was a stupid move from a cowardly bastard and asked Sean to come out and fight him like a real man. Sean wasn't expecting to see an arrow, so he wondered who had shot it. Stark knew there was only one person who could put that much aura into a single arrow, so he raised his head and called out to the man known as Gorka. The sniper asked if he knew him, so Stark replied that every mercenary knows the legend of the Sky Sniper since he's indeed famous among mercenaries. He asked if he was also trying to win the game and suggested they work together to get rid of Sean. Gorka smiled when he heard this, came down from the tree, and approached the man. Stark told him he made the right decision and introduced himself as a mercenary working in the guild, saying he was a famous person there and assuring Gorka he wouldn't regret this decision. Gorka replied that it was fine, while Stark thought he was stupid, even though his reputation had spread throughout their world. Gorka said he miscalculated the timing and still had 3 seconds left. At that moment, Stark told him that a shooter shouldn't make the mistake of getting close to his opponent. He raised his sword and asked Gorka to die and hand over his items, but Gorka showed no shock at his behavior. Immediately, as Stark swung his sword, an arrow pierced his head from behind before he could even touch Gorka. Upon seeing Stark's corpse, Gorka turned around, feeling insulted that a bug like him had asked for cooperation, saying that a passing dog would piss on someone like this. Gorka was more interested in finding Sean and couldn't believe he wasted his precious time dealing with such an idiot. When Gorka left, our hero came down from the tree, and with only 6 people remaining, each person's life energy was precious to Sean. He extended his hand to take Stark's life energy, but as soon as he did, Gorka turned and looked in his direction as if he could see Sean. Our hero was shocked by the man's gaze, since he was sure his cloak blocked even detection abilities, wondering if the sniper had a skill he didn't know about. Sean felt he made a mistake by lowering his guard because he was thinking about life energy, but it turned out Gorka was looking at the box, saying that trash like him would only have lousy stuff, then turned and left it behind. When Gorka continued on his way, Sean fell to the ground breathing heavily upon seeing him leave, realizing that Gorka's senses were extremely strong, and believing this man would be his next opponent. In the next scene, we see the Forbidden Zone barrier moving between the trees to make the area smaller. While running in the forest, Sean noticed the Forbidden Zone was shrinking faster since only 6 survivors remained and there were still 87 days until the game ended. Then he understood that the barrier adapts to the number of survivors, and as soon as this thought occurred to him, he saw something shocking, an open area full of tall grass. Sean realized he would attract attention if he encountered someone here. He entered the grass field carefully, but before he ventured too far, someone launched an attack toward him. Our hero turned when he heard a strange sound, only to be surprised by a massive amount of attacks heading toward him. He jumped quickly to avoid them, then upon landing noticed the magic was targeting his exact location. He was sure it was impossible for his opponent to see him while wearing his cloak, so he wondered how they managed to shoot at him with such accuracy. The moment he thought about that, he raised his head to see more attacks coming toward him. He couldn't believe his eyes and realized he wouldn't be able to dodge them all like he did the previous time. So he took a ready stance, clenched his fist, and decided to block them using his internal energy. He covered his hand with his internal aura and attacked with a piercing fist. And as soon as his attack touched the magic, it completely destroyed it, since there was nothing that could stop him. Sean was stunned when he saw that and realized he was stronger than he had thought. He jumped high to get a clearer view of the area, searching for his opponent's location, and quickly managed to pinpoint his position. The man felt shocked to see Sean in the air, wondering about this boy's identity. He couldn't believe that Sean had managed to block his attack that consumed all his magical energy. While Sean was in the air calling to him, it was already too late, as another person ambushed the man and stabbed him from behind. The man was surprised and turned to see his attacker, unable to believe he hadn't sensed his presence. The blue-haired man told him he should have left enough magical energy to use detection magic and protection magic, informing him that as a professional killer, he could easily hide his traces. Then he asked him to rest in peace, and as soon as he said that, the man's body vanished. There were now only 5 survivors left in the game. When Sean landed on the ground, the man asked if he was really Sean. Our hero in turn asked if he knew him. The man replied yes, and reminded him that he had killed Nam, everyone's #1 enemy here, adding that everyone now yearned to find and kill him. He raised his blades and advised him not to resist pointlessly and to exit the competition quietly, confirming that he had never failed to eliminate any target he set his eyes on. The man rushed toward Sean, demanding that he die. Sean clenched his fist and ran toward him, but the killer told him he was too slow. He passed by him with insane speed, delivering several strikes that made him bleed and left several wounds on his hand. When Sean turned around, the killer told him he had intended to cut him in half, but he was stronger than he thought. Sean realized his arm would have been completely severed if he hadn't covered it with internal energy, and it was clear to him that this killer was extremely powerful. The man smiled and told him his death was just a matter of time, and that he had never failed to assassinate anyone in the darkness. Sean didn't know what to do. He had only faced magic so far and had never dealt with a professional killer before. At that moment, an idea occurred to him. The man raised his blades and said he would finish him now, and as soon as he said that, he disappeared in front of Sean. The latter was startled, but the killer suddenly appeared beside him, trying to tear him apart with his sword. But the surprise was that Sean's body disappeared in front of him, and he heard his voice in the air, praising him for the wonderful stealth skills he possessed. The killer was shocked and asked where he was. Sean told him his stealth skills couldn't compare to his cloak's abilities. Sean grabbed him with his hands and paralyzed his movement, explaining that he could track the movements of someone at his level by monitoring his energy. The killer accused him of cowardice for attacking him from behind, but Sean reminded him that he was the one who said he would finish him. Then he asked him to repeat what he said and immediately broke his arms. The killer screamed in pain, then asked if he thought he could defeat everyone alone, advising him to ally with him if he wanted first place. What scoundrels, they don't want to form an alliance except when they're on the brink of death. But Sean plunged his hand into the killer's body and shattered his heart. The latter vomited blood profusely and died. The number of survivors became only 4, and the system announced that Sean had killed Tamrin with fist arts. Sean took the life energy from both men and collected the healing scrolls that fell from them, determined to finish quickly and leave before the chaos escalated. He also found in Tamrin's chest a martial arts manual, and was surprised that the killer was carrying something like this. Instead of using it, the manual was known as the Spiritual Illusion Steps Guide, a martial art that allows creating copies that can fight, and the number of copies depends on his internal energy. The system asked if he wanted to learn it, so Sean agreed and the manual gradually disappeared. He felt relieved that the killer didn't know how to use internal energy, otherwise killing him would have been more difficult. As for the other man, he had a spell book in his chest, known as Carmen's Eyes, a higher level of detection spells capable of penetrating any skill. Sean couldn't learn it because his magic circle was too low, but he now understood how the man had managed to find him despite wearing his cloak. While Sean was examining the spellbook, someone shot an arrow at him from behind. He bent slightly without realizing it, making the arrow scratch his face. He was surprised to see the arrow since he only knew one archer among the survivors. When he raised his head, he saw a massive magical attack heading toward him. It was a type of magic he had never seen before, making him wonder who its user was. He realized it was too late to escape, so he decided to focus all his internal energy in his fist, using a technique from the unbreakable fist style known as the ultimate fist to face the magic. He used his hand to shatter the powerful attack, until it crumbled, and rocks scattered around him. Since 2 attacks came at the same time, Sean was able to deduce that there was a team of 2 people working together. While he was thinking about this, someone appeared behind him and told him he was extremely powerful, then swung his sword at him. Our hero managed to dodge the strike and quickly retreated. He wasn't expecting there to be 3 people in the group. The swordsman pointed at him, saying his luck had run out. This swordsman was King Herson, named Sinto. The mage was the right hand of the demon king, called Chiron. The third was the heavenly archer Gorka. These 3 were the last survivors and had gathered to face Sean, who didn't know what to do. He couldn't believe he faced collaborators at the moment he was about to win. He knew the best way to break up a team like this was to create a situation that would push them to betray each other, and he had to discover the nature of the relationship between them. Chiron jumped from above the cliff and told the king it was an honor to meet him, but the king called him the Black Mage and asked him not to speak to him. Chiron laughed and apologized for his rudeness, then told Sinto there was something more important than status here. The king replied that he didn't know if it was worth cooperating with a vagrant for a bigger reward. Sean realized the 2 didn't want to cooperate. He quietly put on his cloak, and as he gradually disappeared, Sinto suggested they first get rid of his annoying stealth ability. Chiron said this was easy for him and released a blinding bright light from his hand. Our hero was shocked when he saw that, and when he looked up, he saw a huge ball releasing powerful light in the air. Chiron told Sean he could no longer hide now that there was no darkness left to cover him. Sinto praised the mage's intelligence. Sean hadn't expected the mage to use this trick and remembered that his cloak could only hide him in darkness. He had never thought before that this was a dangerous flaw. Chiron revealed to Sean that he wanted to thank Nam for eliminating Isco on his behalf, but he felt sorry he couldn't thank him personally. With a smile on his face, he told him his turn had come to die. As soon as he finished speaking, he cast his magic, forming a small tornado with rotating blades, a spell known as Chaos Blade. The attack destroyed what was around it and amazed Sean. Most of the mages before them had been weak in close combat, and he thought Chiron would resort to attack if he got close to him, which might prevent him from casting spells properly. Our hero rushed toward the mage, wanting to end the fight with direct confrontation. As soon as Chiron saw him approaching, he called him an ignorant scoundrel and launched his attack at him. Sean penetrated the attack, covering his body with internal energy to reduce damage, assuring himself he would penetrate the attack and reach the mage, no matter what it cost. While the blades were tearing him, his cloak was also damaged, and the system told him he needed to repair it to restore its functions. Sean gritted his teeth to endure the pain, while the energy surrounding his body slowly cracked, and the cloak was destroyed. Chiron was confident that our hero would be completely torn apart by his attack. But while he was watching the Chaos Blade, he heard someone speak the first chapter of the Unbreakable Fist. He was shocked to hear Sean's voice. Our hero jumped out of the tornado and rushed toward him to hit him with the piercing fist. The mage smiled as he approached and told him he was arrogant, asking him to surrender because there was no chance of winning. Then, he raised his fingers and cast a spell known as Chaos Touch, making several hands emerge from the ground to grab our hero. Sean wasn't expecting this, Among the mages he had faced so far, Chiron was on a completely different level. Before the hands could grab him, our hero brought his palms together and performed the shadow copy technique. The hands grabbed the copy while Sean managed to advance, bypassing them. Chiron was astonished when he saw that. He thought our hero only knew how to throw punches and never expected he could use shadow copy magic. He told him these were just trivial tricks, but Sean didn't care because he had already gotten close to him and said to himself that victory would be his. Chiron tried to activate a protection barrier, but before he could do anything, Sinto used the technique known as the piercing blade to stab Chiron from behind and also stab Sean. The mage was stunned when he saw the blade pierce his body and turned to ask Sinto if it was honorable for a king to do something cowardly like that. Sinto withdrew his sword and said there was no honor greater than victory, reminding him that he never said he would cooperate with him. Before Chiron disappeared, he thanked him for getting rid of Sean. The system announced that Sinto had killed Chiron with sword arts. The king turned toward the heavenly archer and told him they were the only two left. Then he stared at Gorka, remembering how much this man had been a source of annoyance to his army, finding it ironic that he ended up helping him. Gorka smiled and told the king it was too early for him to say that. The king asked what he meant, and as soon as he said that, our hero appeared beside him and delivered a powerful punch that shattered his armor and sent him flying to crash into a huge rock. Sean was breathing heavily and told Gorka they were the last two remaining. Gorka thought our hero had died by Sinto's sword, but he realized what was hit was a shadow copy. Sean asked him not to talk and invited him to attack him. Gorka smiled and said everyone had hasty personalities, but he added that he had more urgent matters with Sinto. Sinto called him a scoundrel and told him his actions aroused his anger. He got up and broke the rest of his armor, wondering how he survived. He was sure his sword had stabbed Sean. Then he praised him for destroying armor made by a legendary blacksmith from Carson. Sean removed his torn clothes from his body and told the king he also talked too much, asking if he would fight with Gorka or if they would take turns on him one after another. Sinto told him he would regret making him do his utmost, and as soon as he said that, he disappeared in front of Sean. Our hero was shocked by his speed as he appeared beside him and stabbed him in the arm, saying no one could match his speed. Then he revealed he was targeting his ligaments, confirming he wouldn't be able to use his arm again. He thought Sean needed both hands to use his other skills. Sean didn't comprehend what was happening. He thought the king was the type of warrior with physical strength, but his speed was tremendous to the degree that he didn't even feel his aura. Our hero bit his teeth and told himself he couldn't lose this way. He had worked hard to reach this stage. Sean decided to trust in his internal energy, so he used his other hand to break Sinto's thin sword into two halves. The king was shocked to see what he did to his sword. Sean pulled the blade from his arm and used the Black Annihilation hand to launch it at Sinto with tremendous speed. The king managed to dodge it, but it left a scratch on his face, which amazed him, and he said to Sean, "How dare you wound my face?" Our hero took out a healing scroll and tore it to heal his arm. Sinto asked if he would continue fighting to the end, then performed a skill known as Aura Blade, forming a sword from his energy, and said he acknowledged him for forcing him to use this skill. Since his arm was now healed, Sean decided to use another skill. He brought his palms together and performed the shadow copy technique, releasing all his internal energy, so he managed to create several copies. Sinto said that their hero uses annoying tricks, and that he would always be the winner. But Sean called him a cheater and told him to get ready because he was serious now. As for Gorka, he wished one of them would die now to end the battle quickly. Sinto told Sean to stop talking and attack him, but he was actually worried since the Crescent Blade's duration didn't exceed 2 minutes and he had to finish the fight within that time. Despite Sean's confidence, he also knew his internal energy was nearly depleted and he had to end the battle immediately. Sean rushed forward with a copy toward the king from all directions. Sinto swung his sword toward the copy in front of him, but it dodged his attack. Before he could respond, Sean hit him in the back. Sinto called the despicable dodging hero a coward, then turned and swung his sword toward him, managing to destroy Sean. The king noticed he didn't feel his attack hit a real body and realized he had only killed a copy. He turned around and decided to cut down all the copies without bothering to find the real body. The moment this thought occurred to him, Sean struck him on the head, causing blood to gush from Sinto's mouth. The king didn't expect the attack, which made him lose his balance slightly. He looked at Sean, wondering if he was looking at the real body. Our hero asked if he liked the punch from the despicable dodger and advised him not to try finding his real body, revealing that the copies created by his technique could execute the same attacks with the same skill as the original body, confirming he wouldn't be able to distinguish between them. As soon as he said this, 2 other copies jumped and rushed toward Sinto using the piercing fist technique. Sent quickly jumped back to avoid the attack, so the copies smashed the ground with their strikes. While in the air, Sent raised his sword and used the piercing aura technique, rushing with his aura-covered sword toward the copies at crazy speed. The copies couldn't respond, so the king pierced their heads. Sento told Sean that his copies had weak endurance, then looked around to see how many remained. He found there were only 5 people, meaning one was the real body. Sento realized he only had 1 minute left. Gorka was watching the king analyze the situation and didn't expect Sento to have this much difficulty. When he felt his options were limited, Sento turned and called to Gorka, asking for help and promising to reward him with anything he wanted when they returned to their world. Gorka advised him to keep his eyes on his opponent. The king quickly turned to find Sean in front of him and attacked with the piercing aura technique, but our hero dodged the attack and countered with the invincible punch. Sento managed to block the strike with his aura-covered sword. The waves, resulting from the collision, created tremendous force that pushed Sento backward. Sean was amazed that he managed to block his punch, while Sento smiled happily that our hero was close to him and said, "I've got you, you're mine now, oh you despicable dodger." Sento drove his sword into our hero's chest. Sean pretended to be shocked, but the copy smiled as it faded away. Sento was shocked to discover this was also a copy, and thought our hero had been toying with him from the beginning. He laughed, saying this was insulting, then with an angry face told Sean he no longer cared about winning, confirming he would tear him apart with everything he had. Gorka smiled when he saw this, realizing the king had lost his mind. Sent gathered his energy and took a fighting stance, telling Sean to dodge the attack if he could. No sooner had he finished speaking than he pierced 2 copies at crazy speed without them being able to respond. Now he faced only 2 bodies, 1 copy and the real body. Sean and his copy rushed toward the king. One attacked with the piercing fist, but he dodged it while the other body attacked from the side, directing a powerful punch to his stomach. The king spat a large amount of blood, and Sean rejoiced at the successful attack. But before he could continue, Sento drove his sword into his head, since his hand didn't feel the usual sensation. Sento realized this was also a copy. He pulled out his sword and turned toward the last body, convinced it was the real one. He pointed his sword at our hero, saying he would end the fight with 1 strike. Sean didn't respond and rushed toward the king, directing a powerful kick to his arm that pushed his sword back. The king said Sean was good at hand-to-hand combat, then rushed toward him, asking him to block his next attack. He used a technique known as the lightning pattern for the blade aura. His aura-covered sword grew larger and glowed brighter, releasing lightning sparks. Sento swung this sword toward Sean, hitting his leg. Our hero gritted his teeth to endure the pain. Sento smiled, seeing this. Sean fell to the ground, screaming in pain, then raised his head and asked Sento to wait, saying Gorka would be the only one to benefit from this. Before he could say more, Sento drove his aura-covered sword into his chest and pressed it deeper. His skill ended immediately. The king felt relieved that the fight ended before his skill's time ran out, realizing that if he had delayed a little, he would have lost. But when he looked at his sword, he realized something strange. He had never felt like he hit a real body. As soon as this thought occurred to him, Sean appeared behind him and crushed his head. The system announced that he killed Sento with his hands. Sean looked at the box that appeared and knew that if he hadn't exhausted the man using his shadow copies, he wouldn't have been able to win. Gorka smiled and told Sean he never expected him to defeat Sento, then raised his bow and thanked Sean for defeating the king, saying Sento was tough to deal with. The heavenly archer smiled when he realized that Sento's competitive feeling made him give everything he had against someone like Sean, and this forced Sean to consume all his energy in the battle. He told Sean he would give him the honor he deserved for his brave struggle. As soon as he said this, he fired his arrow toward Sean. The latter was shocked to see the arrow coming toward him. Before Gorka fired his arrow at Sean, our hero had absorbed life energy from Sento, which amazed Sean when he felt the enormous amount of life energy the king possessed, though it didn't compare to what he got from Nam. Sean thought he could face Gorka with his current strength, but the moment this thought occurred to him, he saw Gorka's arrow heading toward him. He dodged it and used the shadow copy technique. A copy pounced on the heavenly archer. Gork wasn't bothered by the copies, but smiled and fired an arrow at one of the bodies. To everyone's amazement, the body started bleeding. TPCA, the arrow had hit Sean's real leg. Sean fell to the ground and his copy faded. Then Gorka came down toward him and said he would make sure this time that he wouldn't escape. Sean screamed when he heard this. While screaming, Gorka fired an arrow into his hand, making him scream in pain, then fired another arrow into his other hand to completely paralyze his movement. Sean asked Gorka how he was able to identify the real body immediately. Gorka smiled and revealed it was just a guess. Sean couldn't believe what he heard. Gorka aimed an arrow at his head and praised his persistence, but Sean replied sarcastically, saying he could feed his respect to his dogs. While Sean was screaming at him, he suddenly stopped. Gorka had fired his arrow into his head. The system announced that Gorka killed Sean with an arrow. Sean's body faded and a box appeared before the Heavenly Archer. The scene shifted to show a video of Gorka taking down Sean in another room, like a live broadcast. The surprise was that the person watching was our hero himself. His body had been moved to a room after his death. The system told him that Cloyd's survival had ended. Sean couldn't believe someone stole his prize after he worked for it, but he didn't feel too sorry since he himself took Nam when he was defenseless. The system congratulated him on entering the top 2 and told him he had the right to participate in the next game. Sean was amazed when he learned there was another game. While examining the place, the system summoned all the items he obtained in the game and told him he had collected a total of 140 reward coins. The system explained he could take the items he obtained by spending these coins, where item values differed. For example, the strength ring cost 2 coins, Cameron's necklace cost 3 coins, and Carmen's magic book cost 50 coins. Sean noticed he had collected many things. When he touched the shadow copy technique booklet, he discovered its price was 130 coins. Sean couldn't believe his eyes. The item would cost him almost all his coins. The system clarified that the top 5 survivors get a chance to spin the Wheel of Fortune to win a random prize. Since Sean came in second place, he was given 2 chances. Sean hoped to get his cloak or the shadow copy booklet. This would save him a lot of money, and if he was lucky, he might get better things. It seems our hero got greedy. Legends. The Wheel of Fortune started spinning at crazy speed. He asked to stop it, but unfortunately it stopped at Esco's necklace, the cheapest item. The result shocked him, saying this was ridiculous, and he cursed himself for collecting so many pieces. Through our hero's words, I understood why Nam only took rare items. Sean remembered he still had a second chance. He watched the wheel spin again, and this time, he wished to get something better. He stopped the wheel slowly. The wheel began to stop. The pointer moved from the subspace ring to the black annihilation palm, and finally settled on the shadow copy technique. Sean couldn't believe his eyes. His prayer was answered, and he was extremely excited, because he got the most expensive item in his loot. Sean now had a chance to get other items without worry. The system offered him a list of items he won and told him he could use his coins to buy additional items. Once finished, he would be automatically transferred to the real world. Sean looked around and decided to start shopping to get suitable items. Although he managed to save a large amount of coins by winning the shadow clone technique, the loot was full of tempting items that made him spend a long time choosing what he wanted. He had to make some compromises and finish shopping. When he finished shopping, the system wished him good luck in the next game. As soon as it did that, a bright light shone before Sean to find himself back to reality. In a moment, Sean checked the place around him to make sure he really returned. Then looked at his hand and saw the subspace ring he used in Cloyd's survival. When he wore the ring, he was sure everything that happened wasn't a dream. He picked up his bag from the ground and left the alley. The first game Sean played was now over. Although his appearance hadn't changed much, he felt a huge change inside him. He realized language exams were no longer among his priorities. He looked at the subspace ring he bought for 30 coins and remembered another game would be held soon. He knew he had to hurry and prepare for it, and promised himself to achieve first place no matter what. His parents had provided him with a studio apartment near school, so he could return to his classes. He was supposed to study and prepare to return to university while preparing to pass the language test, but his priorities had changed now. He needed to strengthen himself using the items he brought from the game and didn't want to be forced to flee again as happened in the first round. Sean entered his house and put his bag on the chair, then sat cross-legged and began meditating. He felt his energy core was empty and wondered if he had consumed all his internal energy in the last battle. Since he couldn't kill anyone here, he decided to develop his energy as the elder taught him to recover part of his internal energy. While meditating, he remembered what the old Sheik Dachin had told him. He had explained to him that it was natural for people to gain internal energy through meditation and training, and that he simply needed to focus on his energy core, where he would then be able to gradually gather energy over time. This method wasn't as fast as absorbing life energy through white martial arts body techniques, but it would lead him to an advanced level if he made cultivation a daily habit. Sean asked the Sheikh if he would become as strong as him if he continued training. Dachin laughed, saying he was very bold, and gave him an example. If a small bird tried to walk like a huge stork, its legs might tear from the attempt. This was his way of indicating that he shouldn't overreach for what exceeded his abilities. Then he said seriously that Sean might be a modest little bird, or perhaps a chick that hadn't flown yet. After 4 hours of meditation, Sean became frustrated. The energy he had gathered was very minimal compared to what happened in the game. He opened his eyes angrily and realized that filling his energy core at this rate might take years. He decided not to waste his time and opened his subspace to organize the items he had brought. He took out the Unbreakable Fist manual from his subspace and wished he had gotten a better martial art. He wondered if he should train gradually, like with internal energy, since he wouldn't become stronger quickly if things were this way. When this thought occurred to him, the system asked if he wanted to learn the technique. Sean was shocked to see the system working in the real world, and when he accepted the offer, a bright light illuminated his room and absorbed the technique. Sean raised his hand and performed a clean strike, and was even able to execute a perfect kick. Although he had learned the martial art, his strength wasn't as intense as it was when his internal energy was full. He reached into his subspace to see the rest of his items and took out Esko's necklace, remembering he had gotten it from the Wheel of Fortune. He also remembered the system had told him the necklace was made of pure gold. Sean bit the necklace with his teeth to test this claim and was surprised that it was indeed gold. Sean realized that something like this was worth 10 million won, yet the system valued it at only 1 coin. So he understood he could make 100 million won if he brought 10 other things like this from the next game. Even if they were worthless inside the game, they had completely different value in this world. Sean took out another item, a bottle containing purified troll blood, which was supposed to guarantee a full year of healthy life for anyone who drank it. Sean had brought it because he found its effect appealing, and knew he could get any amount he wanted if he sold it to a wealthy patient in a critical stage. While looking at the things in his hand, Sean realized that the cloud survival game could be a huge opportunity for him. While he was thinking, he felt hungry and remembered he had only eaten tough bacon strips inside the game, and had forgotten his hunger because he was busy training his internal energy. He decided to get some real food. Sean went to Grandma's restaurant and ordered an individual meal. She served him a meal for 5,000 won, which he considered a luxury. The only thing he wanted while chewing the bacon was this exact meal. When he took a spoonful of rice, tears poured down his face. It had been a long time since he ate simple white rice. The restaurant owner didn't understand the reason for his strange behavior and reminded him that he had come yesterday, advising him not to cry because it might spoil his appetite. With a confused face, Sean told the old woman that the food was extremely delicious and thanked her for preparing it well. The restaurant owner replied, telling him to stop talking nonsense, and told him he could order more if he wasn't full. Sean realized that time in the game was completely different from time in the real world. After he finished his food, he thanked the old woman for the meal. She told him to stop complaining and asked him to come again. On the way back, Sean wondered when the next game would start. He wanted to gather more internal energy before that time. While thinking, he remembered he had brought something with him. He wore the power ring and wondered if it worked in the real world too. The moment this thought occurred to him, he felt a sudden surge of energy. He decided to test it by jumping, and when he propelled upward, he broke the ground with his legs and reached all the way to the building's roof. Sean was shocked by feeling the power flowing through his body. Then he quickly returned down and landed gracefully. He hoped no one had seen him because he knew things would become complicated if a video of him spread on the internet. Sean returned home and was planning to gather more internal energy before using a new item, but he decided to use it now. He reached into his storage space and took out the insight elixir that he had bought for 50 coins. The most expensive item he had ever acquired in his life. Sean remembered how he couldn't move for 3 hours and how his insides were burning when he had taken his previous dose of the elixir, so he hesitated a little. But in the end, he opened the bottle and poured its contents into his mouth. As soon as he swallowed it, he felt something strange. The bottle fell from his hand and his body exploded with bright light, and he screamed from the intensity of the pain. After 3 hours, thick steam began rising from Sean's room. A woman said she tried to open her neighbor's door, but the door handle was extremely hot. A man replied that she should call the fire department if it was this hot, not the police. The old woman told the police officers who arrived that it wasn't a fire but abnormally intense heat. One of the officers advised her to leave the room alone, saying the tenant probably raised the heater temperature by mistake. But she insisted the matter was bigger than that. One of the officers decided to check for himself, but as soon as he touched Sean's apartment door, he immediately pulled his hand back from the intense heat. Looking stunned, the officer and his colleague stepped back and asked if anyone was inside. They asked him to open the door, assuring him they came to help. Sean pressed the handle and opened the door, surprising the officers and the woman. The officer told him they received a report about a possible fire. Sean replied while panting that he was suffering from a simple fever, so he lowered the heater temperature. Then, he wondered why the police came instead of the fire department. The officer explained that police are obligated to respond to fire reports and asked if he needed an ambulance. But Sean reassured him, saying he would be fine as soon as he rested a little. Then the officers decided to leave, and one of them asked the old woman not to call them again for such matters because they might face accountability. After they left, Sean closed the door and fell to the floor, not believing he almost died. The elixir's energy was boiling inside him like fire, and if not for the white martial arts body technique, he wouldn't have been able to endure it. Then, he realized that using these items in the real world carried great danger. While he was thinking, he decided to check how much energy he had gained. He raised his hand and barely moved it, causing things around him to scatter in the air with just a simple movement. Then he realized the magnitude of the power he had obtained, and that he needed to sell some of his possessions to buy other tools. The next day, Sean was at an outdoor training ground, hanging upside down from a pull-up bar. His goal was to improve the unbreakable fist and develop it beyond his current level. For this, he needed intensive physical training, but he discovered the ground was very crowded during the day, so he decided to return for training after sunset. While he was hanging, he glimpsed a group of troublesome high school students and remembered there was a high school directly at the bottom of the mountain. There was a girl, standing next to a boy, smoking a cigarette. She called out to Dong Jun and asked if Shik had really said he would meet them. Dong Jun replied by calling her crazy and asked her to stop doubting him. Before he could add anything, an old man approached and told the boy that smoking was forbidden in this area, adding that it was inappropriate for a student to smoke. But the boy answered that even his parents didn't object to his smoking and asked him to mind his own business. Then the old man replied that his parents had failed to raise him properly. This angered Dong Jun, who was surprised that a strange old man dared to criticize him. Sean noticed that the boy's friends began surrounding the man. Dong Jun raised his hand threatening to hit him, but before he could move, a powerful kick from Sean hit him in the face, causing him to fall to the ground and crash into the garbage cans behind him. Sean told him he had no right to hit an old man just because he was rude to him. Then, the rest of the students turned toward a huge boy called Min Shik. Min Shik called him messy hair and said it seemed they hadn't met before, then asked if he was looking for death. Sean realized the situation was about to get complicated. Min Shik asked if he was the one who hit his brother. Sean explained that his brother was wrong because he showed no respect for elders and that a student shouldn't smoke publicly if he didn't want to get into serious trouble. He added that Min Shik should care about raising his younger brother and that he had no choice but to respond with force because he couldn't allow Dong Jun to hit the old man. As soon as he finished speaking, Sean dodged a punch from Min Shik, then grabbed his hand and delivered a devastating punch that pushed him backward to fall to the ground and vomit some blood. Sean was stunned by the severity of his injury and realized he hadn't succeeded in controlling his strength. The rest of the students were surprised by what happened, while Min Shik got up again and pulled out a small knife from his pocket. He asked Sean where a bastard like him came from, then cursed him and threatened to kill him. Then Sean realized that both brothers, older and younger, were out of control. As Min Shik advanced toward him, waving his knife and threatening him with death, Sean easily dodged the attack. Min Shik repeated his attack, but the longer the fight went on, the more Sean realized that fighting ordinary people had become extremely easy for him. He lowered his body and swept Min Shik's leg, causing him to lose his balance, then gathered energy in his hands. He knew he had to control his strength to avoid killing this fool, so he decided to use only 50% of his energy. He used the unbreakable strike to hit Min Shik, and the blow sent him flying in the air to crash into a tree and vomit more blood. The onlookers quickly pulled out their phones and took pictures of Min Shik lying on the ground. Sean was shocked by the power of his attack. This wasn't the result he wanted. He decided to blame Min Shik, saying his acting was exaggerated and asking if he was an actor in action movies. Then he turned to advise the youths to stop smoking, respect elders, and not carry dangerous weapons like knives before speeding away. Dungeon friends approached to try to wake him up while the others were busy filming. And as he ran down the mountain, Sean wondered why he wanted to show off his strength in front of an ordinary person when he knew his life would end. If he died from shock, he realized he needed serious training to learn to control his abilities. After a month, Sean was circulating his energy in his apartment when his phone rang, and it was his mother calling. She asked if he had eaten, so he answered affirmatively. She told him she called because he wasn't responding to her text messages and asked if he was sick, then asked about the new academy. He told her he was trying to adapt. He couldn't tell her that he was training in martial arts instead of focusing on his studies. He asked her about his father's new delivery job, so she told him that his father had been in a car accident while working. Our hero was shocked, and his mother added that the cause was a car running a red light and hitting him hard. With tears in her eyes, she said she was worried because the surgery cost was expensive. She realized she hadn't given him enough allowance and told him she felt guilty for asking. Then, she asked if he still had some money from his savings. Sean put his hand in his pocket and asked her about the surgery cost. She told him it was 2 million won. When he heard this, he took out Isko's contract and told her not to worry and that he might have a solution. He asked if she was okay, so she answered that she was fine and apologized for bothering him while he was busy studying. Sean reassured her and said he would call her later. He took a bag and put something inside it and left quickly. His parents had lived moving from one rented apartment to another throughout their lives. His father worked harder than anyone he knew, but his income decreased as he got older, and his job was easily replaceable, which made him change workplaces often. When he realized he was just a parasitic child living at the expense of a poor family, he described himself as a burden with no future. He swore to himself that he wouldn't live like this anymore. He pulled himself together and entered a luxury store and took out Isko's necklace to show it to the manager there, asking her to tell him its value if he wanted to sell it. The woman told him the craftsmanship was excellent and that she realized it wasn't locally made. Sean told her this necklace had been inherited in his family for 5 generations. The woman told him its design was definitely not from the modern era. Sean asked her to determine its value. The employee explained that the piece might be worth more than just the value of the gold it contains. She asked if he was sure he wanted to sell it. He confirmed that he knew perfectly well it wasn't something to give up, but he explained that his father desperately needed money for an emergency surgery. The woman knew that Sean wouldn't have an authentication certificate for a piece considered heritage, so he told her the situation was urgent. After a while, Sean left the store and quickly opened his phone to see the amount deposited in his bank account. He didn't expect gold prices to have risen this much, and even after giving the money to his mother, he still had enough to use for a while. Sean looked inside the store and saw the employee very happy, so he realized he might have sold the piece for less than its value. But that didn't matter much to him because he needed the money immediately. Nevertheless, he knew he had to find better ways to sell the things he brought. He arrived and decided to send the money to his mother, and after sending the money, he called her to tell her about it. His mother asked him about the source of this amount and whether he had taken a loan. She told him she couldn't spend the money if it was a loan, so Sean answered that he couldn't get a loan in the first place because he didn't have a full-time job, and that this money was simply what he had saved from his part-time work in the army. His mother told him she was very sorry, so he asked her not to worry about him and promised he would visit the hospital soon. She thanked him for his help. Then Sean took the train and remained standing. While standing, he heard some students talking about something fake and one of them saying it was obviously Photoshop. One of them asked his friend if he believed such things, so he answered that the video looked like it was secretly filmed. In the video, there was a man in a suit mentioning something about Isko's flame. Sean knew these words immediately, and when he looked at the student's phone, he saw the man shooting fire from his hand. Sean couldn't believe his eyes. For those watching the video for the first time, they might not understand what was happening, but Sean knew this was a spell from Cloud's survival. He couldn't believe he wasn't the only one in Korea who participated in the game. While the students were watching the video, it was suddenly deleted. The phone owner said the video gets uploaded then deleted repeatedly, and his friend added that the person uploading it must be crazy. At that moment, Sean wasn't aware of the consequences of someone else being able to access the opportunity he had. Then the scene changed to another place where a blonde man was receiving a call. He said he would make sure something like this wouldn't happen again, even if they had to cut the internet from the entire country. In front of him was a group of men wearing suits. The blonde man apologized to his boss, confirming they would deal with the matter immediately, then ended the call. He turned to one of his subordinates and said he heard the person who uploaded the video was Korean and asked him to explain what happened. The man told him the number of survivors had increased significantly recently, making it almost impossible to track them all. Then the blonde man grabbed an ashtray and threw it at his subordinate's head, then asked him why the number of agents wasn't increasing proportionally with the increase in survivors. The man fell to the ground holding his injury, so the blonde man ordered him to find that fame seeker and bring him immediately. He answered that he would carry out the order. The blonde man asked him to stop the bleeding and threatened to kill him if his carpet got stained with blood. Then a man with healing ability quickly approached the injured person and used his ability on the wound site. The blonde man wondered if the weaklings in front of him were even capable of catching the survivors, and told his followers he had enough headaches dealing with the free wolves, then ordered them to move if they understood. Everyone agreed to his orders. Later, we see Sean running in the forest at night. He was training in the dark so no one would see him, and he had been doing this for 2 months. During this period, he gathered enough internal energy and became accustomed to using it. While running, Sean jumped and used the shadow clone technique, summoning only one clone. He and his clone used the unbreaking fist strike, but Sean was having problems with the shadow clone technique since he could only summon one clone with limited internal energy and for a short time only. As he ran deep into the forest, the clone chased him. Then they attacked each other. Their fists collided, releasing some energy, and while he was breathing heavily, the clone disappeared and he fell to the ground. Then he realized this was his current limit. He remembered he had no problem controlling 8 clones during his fight with Sento, so he wondered why he couldn't use his ability at full power now, and whether he had used too much internal energy in his last battle. His condition, or rather his Dantian's condition, was miserable. He stood up and told himself there was no point in regret and decided to return home to continue gathering internal energy. He felt hungry from all the training and started thinking about the food he had stored in his subspace, but before he could open it, he was pulled into the other world. There he saw different warriors as in the previous time, and some looked confused, and they were all speaking different languages. Sean noticed that some people were in a state of confusion as he was the first time. He couldn't believe he was invited again to participate in another game after only 2 months. The system appeared before him and thanked him for participating in Cloud's survival. Then the giant knight statue announced it would begin explaining the preliminary lesson. Sean remembered the preliminary lesson was skipped the previous time and smiled when he realized there were more beginners this time. While examining the place, he saw someone sitting on the statue. He noticed this person was wearing a school uniform and was sure he was a high school student. Sean didn't expect to see someone from Korea participating in the game. The boy stood up and looked around, but Sean ignored him, thinking the boy was trying to attract attention, and he felt high school students always exaggerated their behavior. He thought the boy had played this game before and hoped he wouldn't be a strong monster. While thinking, the system announced the game would start with 200 players and would be at the lowest difficulty level, and players had to reach the top 200 ranks. The game would be held in Cantor's Valley, starting from the 20th center. Sean didn't like this, because if 200 people would pass, and there were 200 participants, this meant no danger of failure and therefore no risk of elimination. He decided to play crazily like General Lobo. After the statue finished explaining what Sean already knew, a surprising order was announced. The game would be duo, not solo. Sean was surprised and didn't know the reason for the change. The statue explained that players had to choose someone they liked and register the team with them, and the game would continue until only one team remained alive. Even if only one player remained, both team members would be rewarded. Players were told that if they didn't form a team within 5 minutes, they would be forced to play solo. Sean thought the game became duo because of the increased number of participants compared to the previous time. He noticed everyone was meeting for the first time and wondered what would drive them to form teams. He knew choosing the wrong partner might burden him with a heavy load. He remembered the boy he saw earlier who didn't seem like a beginner and thought he would be useful. But when he turned toward the statue, he discovered the boy had disappeared and didn't know when he moved. He wondered if he had already gone to look for a partner. Our hero decided to form a duo with anyone, so he approached a knight and asked if he wanted to form a team with him, but the system told him the knight was already in a duo. Sean moved quickly to meet someone else, but the system gave him the same reply. Everyone around him was already in duos. Sean was sure there were people who hadn't found a partner yet, but he didn't know how to find them among this crowd. While examining the place, the system announced that Cloud's survival would start soon, and since he had no time left, Sean decided to kill any solo player or any duo he encountered. As soon as this idea occurred to him, he rose into the sky. It seems our hero will play solo against squads. The system announced that the first day of duo mode in Cloud's survival had begun. Every participant flew in the sky, and Sean noticed scattered villages around the valley. He felt this was a suitable place to gather resources, so he immediately asked the system to bring him down. He wanted to land first and eliminate anyone who landed after him. As soon as his feet touched the ground, he turned around and saw 3 different teams landing in the village, so Sean ran quickly toward them. After the first game ended, our hero reviewed everything that happened in his head over and ran countless mental simulations in preparation for the second game. All he had to do now was execute what he had planned. Inside the forest, a wizard landed on the ground. The wizard was a beginner who didn't know what was happening and felt nauseous from the landing. He wondered about the landing location of his teammate named James. As soon as the thought crossed his mind, Sean appeared behind him. Before attacking, the wizard sensed his presence and quickly used a shield to block it. Our hero surprised the wizard by Sean's appearance, and the wizard asked why he was attacking him. Our hero answered saying, "One down," and as soon as he said it, he attacked with a void strike. His punch crushed the man's body, causing the wizard to spit some blood and fall to the ground. The system informed him that his opponent had lost consciousness and asked him to deliver the final blow before his teammate could save him. Sean hadn't expected that duo games contained such a feature. He placed his foot on the wizard's head and crushed it immediately. Suddenly, he felt something behind him, so he turned quickly to find a knight charging toward him with a huge spear. Sean moved to the side to dodge the spear, but the man hit him with his shield. Our hero realized the man was probably the wizard's teammate. The knight had great strength in close combat, while the grappling technique he relied on focused on bare-handed fighting, making dealing with weapons like bows, spears, and swords a big challenge. In reality, there was no perfect way to face such weapons, especially since Sean had only applied his techniques in mental training, but he felt excited to try them in the game and even started smiling. He stood up and said the match would be fun. As soon as he said that, the knight charged toward him. Sean clenched his fist and directed his hand toward the knight's spear, but suddenly opened his palm and pushed the spear aside lightly. Before he could reach the knight, the latter pulled his spear back close to him. Sean was surprised and raised his hand to block, causing the spear to bounce off his elbow. The knight was amazed when he saw Sean closing the distance between them and changing his attack direction. Our hero noticed the knight's chest was exposed, so he struck it with his palm using the void strike technique. His attack destroyed the knight's armor and caused severe damage to his chest. Before he could recover, Sean grabbed his head and kicked him in the face, shattering his helmet and knocking him toward the village where he fell unconscious. Sean placed his foot on his head and crushed it, thus eliminating an entire team. A lot of life energy emerged from the man's body. Although our hero could develop his strength through training, absorbing life energy was a much faster way to get stronger. Sean realized there were 4 other people in the area. As soon as the thought crossed his mind, something rushed toward him. Our hero quickly bent down to avoid what turned out to be an arrow. He raised his head to track its source and found several houses in front of him. He told himself the arrow must have come from one of the side houses. As soon as he thought that, another arrow appeared in front of him. Sean was surprised and bent down quickly, but the arrow left a wound on his face and made him bleed. Our hero wondered if the opponent was luring him. As soon as the thought crossed his mind, the archer fired more arrows. Sean dodged the arrows and started running toward the forest. Since the archer was this accurate despite the distance, Sean wondered if it was Gorka, but he quickly concluded this archer wasn't as strong as that elf. He began thinking about whether the attacker was working alone or if his teammate was also chasing him. He turned and jumped into one of the houses. He wanted to locate the archer and believed the archer's partner would appear if he could catch him. He climbed to the roof to get a better view. In the previous game, Sean would hide in every house to gather resources, but after setting his sights on the life energy absorption technique, his enemies became just fuel for him to consume. While running, he saw something heading toward him, 2-3 arrows at once. One of them pierced his head, but luckily, it was just a fake copy that disappeared in the air. The archer watched this scene from a house window and didn't understand what happened, as he was sure he had hit Sean. While he was thinking about it, he received a powerful kick to the face that made him spit a large amount of blood. It turned out, the attacker was Sean himself, who kicked him so hard, he slammed back against the door. Then Sean landed on the ground. Sean noticed he couldn't see the archer even though he was sure he had hit him. Strangely, the archer was right in front of him, picking up his bow and moving past Sean. At that moment, Sean realized the man was using an invisibility cloak. The archer jumped out of the house and turned to shoot an arrow at Sean's back, but the latter spotted his shadow on the ground and quickly dodged the strike. The archer landed on the ground and escaped through the window, then ran in broad daylight, becoming visible. Sean shouted that he wouldn't escape easily and jumped from the window to chase him. While the archer was running, Sean suddenly landed in front of him. The man was shocked when he saw him. Sean told him he had made a mistake by attacking him in broad daylight while wearing the cloak, and that if he had just stuck to hiding, he might have reached the top. He asked him to die and hand over the cloak. At that moment, an elf appeared and said, "That's enough." He drew his daggers, apologizing to the archer for not being able to catch up with Sean. The elf said Sean was faster than he appeared, but the archer scolded him, saying he was supposed to protect him no matter what. The elf replied that he hadn't seen Sean's teammate. The archer responded that he didn't care and they had to kill Sean immediately. Then Sean realized he should have killed the archer quickly before the other arrived, and now he would face them both together. He smiled when he remembered he already had greater numbers on his side. The elf rushed toward him, while the archer shot an arrow. Sean dodged it, causing the arrow to deflect toward the elf, who blocked it with his dagger. Sean brought his hands together to form something, then ran toward an alley. The archer called him cunning and shot 3 arrows that hit him in the back. He smiled, saying he never missed. While he and the elf were looking at Sean's body, the real Sean appeared above them. The archer said he had finally caught him, but Sean landed behind him saying, "You're arrogant." Alex was shocked to see him and didn't understand how he got behind him. Before he could turn around, Sean pierced his chest with his hand and crushed his heart, then pulled his hand out saying, "Eyes might see someone somewhere, but that doesn't mean they're really there." The system informed him he had eliminated his opponent and asked if he wanted to dispose of his teammate before reviving him. The elf raised his dagger and said Sean was using strange magic, thinking he was an illusion wizard. Sean smiled and replied he was just a returning student, adding that if he wanted to save his teammate, he had to take him down first. The elf rushed toward him, saying he would kill him and stay until the end, so they could meet in a direct attack. The elf swung his daggers toward Sean using the double strike technique. Sean responded with a punch toward the elf using the counter technique. To execute the counter, Sean had to get close and directly target his opponent's shoulder. But before his hand reached the elf's shoulder, the elf used his other dagger to make a quick cut on his arm, which amazed Sean. He hadn't expected the elf to be this fast. The elf immediately passed by him and wounded his ribs with another cut in an instant. This move was known as the Bloody Rush. Sean realized the dagger was completely different from the spear. The wound he received was deep, and if he hadn't covered himself with internal energy, the attack would have pierced his arm and the rest of his body. The elf found it strange that his daggers didn't cut as deep as he expected and thought Sean was using some tricks, but he said it didn't matter. With a smile, he added that his next target was Sean's neck. As soon as he said that, he rushed toward him. Sean began thinking about what he should do. Counter was his best technique against this elf, but he didn't know how he could block his movements. Suddenly, he remembered there was no penalty for failure in this game, so he closed his eyes and decided to try something else, since there was no danger from losing. Instead of tracking the elf with his eyes, he tried to sense his opponent's energy and killing intent. He moved his internal energy around him carefully. He told himself he wouldn't reach first place if he couldn't overcome this obstacle. Sean, who had trained in using internal energy for 2 months, was no longer the person who struggled when learning it for the first time from Dachin. He moved carefully, according to the energy he felt, and ended his movement by pressing a point on the ground. When he opened his eyes, he found himself on top of the elf, pressing his head to the ground and completely paralyzing his movement. The elf couldn't believe what happened and asked Sean how he managed to block his ultimate attack so easily. But Sean wasn't listening. He felt he had broken through a new barrier in his martial arts journey. He composed himself, then pressed his hand on the elf's head until he crushed it. The system informed him he had killed Carlet Jr. with brute force and that the number of players in the game was now 196. Sean stood up and absorbed the life energy from Carl, then opened both men's boxes and took what was inside. He found a healing scroll in one of them, so the system asked if he wanted to use it. He agreed because he wanted to heal and continue hunting. After he healed, he looked at something and wondered why he was always getting worked up and ruining things. He was looking at the invisibility cloak, but it was now damaged. The system informed him the cloak had lost its function and he would need a skilled craftsman with special abilities or a special repair scroll to restore it. Sean realized that reaching the summit would have been easier if the cloak hadn't been damaged. He put it in his subspace and began examining the rest of the loot. He pulled out a longbow that belonged to Alex. The system told him its name was the lightning-struck cottonwood bow, which allowed its user to shoot arrows, carrying faint lightning energy. Sean remembered that he hadn't felt any lightning in the arrows Alex had shot at him before. He set the bow aside and pulled out a skill book that introduced the multi-shot skill, which allowed firing multiple arrows at once. Sean realized that Alex wasn't originally an archer but had learned archery inside the game. Sean decided to try the skill after learning it. He took the long bow and shot several arrows toward a building in one shot. He discovered that this bow was much better than the crossbow he had gotten in the previous game, and was certain it would be a useful weapon. He remembered there was another team in this area, so he decided to rest before pursuing them. He entered one of the houses searching for items. While searching, he wondered if all the items here were just junk because the place was full of village houses. He wondered if he could find something similar to an invisibility cloak. While thinking, he spotted a watchtower in the town center through the window and knew these places were usually the best hunting spots. He quickly headed to the tower and opened its door. Since the door was locked, he thought no one had come there yet. Sean decided to start exploring the place, so he quickly closed the door to avoid attracting attention. While climbing the stairs, he prayed to find something good and hoped to get a cloak or rings that would increase his strength. But when he reached the top, he discovered the building was completely empty. He angrily punched the wall with his fist. Sometimes things in the game go as planned, and sometimes they go terribly wrong. While he was boiling with anger, he spotted a duo running around the area and wondered if they had anything valuable. He knew it would be difficult to face them alone if they had powerful equipment, so he began thinking about how to deal with them. While he was deep in thought, he noticed something interesting. He saw one of them pointing to the watchtower. Our hero realized they were coming here. When they reached the door, the wizard told his companion named Kilroy that the door was closed, and assured him that no one had entered here yet. The first thing the wizard found was a healing wrap, so he said it was a good omen. Sean was watching them from above and hadn't noticed the wrap at the entrance because of all the surrounding junk, and didn't expect it would be something good. Our hero jumped from the stairs, thinking the team was weak and their equipment was worthless, especially since they were amazed by a healing wrap. With a smile on his face, he said he should attack first when he sees weaklings. The two players noticed a shadow on the ground, and before they could react, Sean landed in front of them. He quickly turned toward the wizard, knowing that a strong wizard would have already started casting a defensive barrier. He threw a punch at him. The barrier blocked the attack before shattering from his strike. The wizard was surprised by Sean's attack. and our hero decided to finish him with the next blow. But the wizard raised his hand and cast Esco's flame spell, launching his attack towards Sean. Our hero jumped, avoiding the flames that hit the wizard's companion, the big man, carrying an axe, who got annoyed and asked the wizard what he was doing. The wizard said he was trying to hit the target. While Kilroy was trying to put out the fire, our hero landed behind them. The man and wizard turned toward him. Roy asked the wizard if the target was alone, and the wizard answered that if Sean had a companion, he would have attacked with him already. Kilroy raised his axe saying they could kill him. Kilroy swung at our hero, but Sean easily dodged it and carefully moved away from him. Kilroy got angry and said he would kill him, then delivered a powerful blow. Sean jumped, avoiding the attack, but Kilroy's axe hit the wizard. The wizard asked the man what he was doing. Panic struck him, and he said he didn't mean to and was trying to hit Sean. The wizard replied that he understood and asked him to pull out the axe. But before the man could do that, Sean appeared behind the wizard and hit his head with a crushing blow that smashed his head. Our hero thanked the warrior for allowing him to get the final blow. But the warrior felt Sean was mocking him, so he removed his armor and enlarged his body. Sean wondered if Kilroy had a negative effect on his speed because of the armor. The man started looking like a warrior who relied on physical strength, so our hero wondered if he would become faster now. Kilroy attacked with his axe, so Sean jumped, avoiding the attack that destroyed the ground. The warrior quickly raised his head to see Sean, but our hero attacked him with a straight kick, hitting his neck. The kick caused serious injury, but he remained able to move. He told Sean that he couldn't stay in the air forever and would have to land. As soon as he said that, he attacked him with his axe while he was in the air. His attack pierced the place and destroyed part of the watchtower, but Sean admitted that Kilroy's strength was impressive. He disappeared in the air and landed on the ground without being attacked, then asked Kilroy if he really thought he could catch him with brute force alone. The warrior told Sean he wanted to see if he would dare to speak after he died, then swung his axe at him. Sean bent down to avoid the axe, then quickly attacked him with a piercing fist. But Kilroy blocked the attack, saying that a worm like him would start writhing when someone stepped on it. While he was talking, the real Sean was behind him. The one in front of the warrior was just a copy. Our hero turned around and asked the man to continue fighting with his copy, calling him a fool, then left the tower. When he came out, Kilroy heard his footsteps and was amazed to see Sean outside, wondering when he had gotten there. Our hero raised his head and saw that Kilroy had caused great damage to the building with his attacks. Then he raised his leg and asked the warrior if he wasn't curious to know what would happen if he did something like this, then kicked the wall with tremendous force. The warrior asked him what he was doing, saying there was someone else inside. The moment he said that, he turned around to see Sean's copies slowly fading away. Immediately, Kilroy begged our hero to save him, but Sean turned around and let the building collapse on him. The collapse caused a huge explosion, and immediately, Sean emerged from the dust. He wondered if the kill would count for him since he didn't kill the man directly with his hands. He had killed him this way because he found it entertaining, but he wouldn't benefit if the kill wasn't recorded for him, so he called himself a fool. After the dust settled, the system announced that the number of remaining players became 194. When Sean approached the rubble, the loot boxes appeared in front of him. He found it interesting that the boxes appeared separately from the bodies due to insufficient space to appear near them. He knew that if they hadn't appeared here, he would have spent his entire day digging looking for them, so he began looting immediately. He got the power gauntlet and wore it. It was a glove that slightly increased the wearer's strength. This gauntlet was the only useful thing that Kilroy had possessed. When Sean opened the wizard's box, he was shocked by what he found inside. There were items he had never seen before. Among what he obtained were the magic explosion scroll that could be detonated using magic, a cursed brooch, the philosopher's stone, and a fragmented secret manuscript whose real name he wouldn't know until collecting all 8 pieces. After taking what he wanted, he decided to leave the area, realizing he had caused a big commotion here. He wore the magic robe, which was a robe that repelled wind and rain but provided no real protection. Sean glanced at the map and noticed that the forbidden zone had started shrinking. He knew some people had already managed to cross to the other side at this moment, so he decided to head toward the center of the map and then launch from there to the other side. He searched the remaining houses for useful items but found nothing worth taking, so he continued his path to not waste time. The distance to the center was far, but since our hero had become accustomed to using his internal energy, he was now traveling much faster than in the previous game. While running, the system informed him that he had entered a monster spawn zone and explained that there were specific areas where monsters appeared within maps, and that the types of these monsters varied greatly from place to place. It also clarified that boss monsters appeared in certain maps, and if he managed managed to hunt one, it would drop a special item. Sean realized he would face creatures beyond just werewolves and wondered why the system hadn't told him this in the first game. Then, the system revealed to him the existence of enhancement monsters that granted players temporary special abilities. After the explanation ended, Sean looked around and noticed he was approaching his destination. But suddenly, he heard a thunderous sound, so he quickly covered his ears, wondering if its source was a forest monster. There were two players facing a group of monsters, some flying and some moving on the ground. The wizard told the duelist that he would restrict the monster's movement and asked him to fight as defensively as possible. The duelist thanked him for his support, then pounced on the monsters. During their clash, our hero was watching them from afar and didn't expect to see a wizard and martial artist fighting together. He took his long bow and said he would start by taking down one of them. As soon as he finished his sentence, he shot his arrow toward them. While the two players were fighting the monsters and defeating them through their cooperation, they wanted to finish quickly to get the reward. But suddenly, Sean's arrow came at them. The wizard managed to dodge it and understood that someone was targeting them. Because of this, the wizard asked the other player to fight differently so they wouldn't die instead of focusing on getting the reward. But the other player refused and said they were about to finish, which angered the wizard because they could be defeated at any time and should escape now. Then Sean saw this struggle and decided to shoot another arrow, destroying the wizard's shield and knocking him down. Then the fighter asked the wizard to create another barrier so they wouldn't die. The wizard was grumbling but created the barrier and said they should escape now because the arrow power was very high and next time it could finish him off. But the fighter player said that if they ran now they would lose everything, not just the reward but even the loot from the monsters they killed. The wizard became furious and created a giant wall that surrounded them, which shocked the fighter because he had only asked for a protective wall. Then Sean said that what the two fighters did was better for him because he had now trapped them without effort. The fighter was angry and asked the wizard why he did this. The wizard told him that the wall cost him a lot of mana, so he created this wall, and the enemy wouldn't be able to penetrate the wall with his arrows. But the fighter grabbed the wizard angrily and told him that he had now revealed their exact location to the enemy. He continued that if he kept doing these stupid things, their cooperation would end. Then he asked him to get rid of this wall, and the wizard said it would take 5 minutes. At that moment, Sean prepared to attack and fired an arrow carrying explosive power. In the blink of an eye, both players were shocked by the arrow appearing beside them, and the area exploded with them in it. Sean was stunned and said that the attack was stronger than he had imagined. Meanwhile, the mage had been killed, and his fighter friend miraculously survived and thought he had escaped the attack. But suddenly Sean appeared in front of him and said, "I'll eat well, thank you." The fighter then thought and said, "I thought I had gained good and strong allies, but it seems I have a long road ahead." Sean killed him, and a reward box appeared where the fighter had been. He obtained the loot from the other two players, and a message appeared asking if Sean wanted to exchange some of his skills and equipment for what he had recently acquired. But Sean refused and said that all the skills he obtained were useless to him. However, not all items were useless, and he found a Tokar's ring among the belongings and understood that this ring was the reason the fighter player survived the explosion. After Sean took the ring, he went to inspect the rest of the area and indeed found a magic necklace. He was happy with it because it was made of pure gold and seemed to be of high value. Then he found a book, but he said it would be difficult for him to learn these things. Then the monsters that the players had been fighting attacked him, but he defeated them in the blink of an eye and was amazed that the players had found it difficult to defeat these trivial monsters. He then found the monster's reward, which consisted of some items, but Sean wasn't impressed and said only some of them weren't bad. He continued on his way and sat somewhere to gather his strength. He was thinking about whether this game was like other games. If he killed the monster boss, would he get things that could turn the situation in his favor? But he told himself that he now needed to know two things: whether he was strong enough to defeat the boss, and second, whether there were other players who had the same thinking. The next day, a screen appeared showing that 61 players had been killed and only 139 players remained. Sean had killed 8, which wasn't bad for him. He decided to head to the location he had marked on the map earlier. But during his journey, he wondered why the weather was so hot like this. Meanwhile, he found a bird carrying a box, and Sean immediately understood that this was a supply box containing resources. Indeed, the bird dropped the box beside him. When Sean went to the box, a message appeared, warning him that if he took what was in this box, a red mark would be placed on the map, indicating Sean's location every 30 minutes for the next 6 hours. Sean was thinking that losing this match wasn't something important, so why not take this gamble? When he opened the box, he was shocked by what was inside.